Bakery stood at the edge of his small room, looking around as he called for his mom. His voice echoed through the quiet house, but there was no answer. The place felt emptier than usual, and shoulders tensed as he waited, hoping she'd reply. He started yelling, trying to figure out what just happened. His dad stands in front of him with that serious look, telling him to stop causing trouble and just go. He tells everyone to keep things quiet, making sure nobody says a word about what happened. He doesn't want any rumors or news getting out. He lets everyone know that the family isn't going to get back at anyone for what happened. He tells his son he's doing this for the family, and because it's the right thing to do. He makes it clear that going after revenge on his own isn't the way to handle things. Freezes, his face twisting as he gets hit with pain he didn't see coming. For a second, everything else fades out. His body tenses up, and it's clear this hurts way more than he expected. He looks like he's trying to get his head around what just happened, barely holding it together. He suddenly breaks down in front of his dad, tears streaming down his face. He can't understand how his father just sits there, not saying or doing anything about his mom being gone. It's like he's struggling to figure out how anyone could call themselves a man and still turn away when something this huge happens, especially when it's about his own family. He thinks of him as someone who just isn't like everyone else. He says he's done and walks away, not looking back at the family. For him, whatever connection they had is over. As he takes off, he quickly understands he's not strong enough to get back at anyone right now. He knows he needs to get way stronger, strong enough that everyone has to notice him. With that in mind, he makes up his mind to start his own group, find loyal guys to back him up, and slowly grow his reach. He walks on, his mind stuck on all the people who played a part in what happened to his mom. He can't help but remember those who knew the truth but kept quiet, letting things unfold the way they did. Each step just brings those faces back, and the silence from everyone else feels heavier than ever. He promises himself that one day, no matter how long it takes, he'll get back at them. Even if it takes years, he isn't letting this go. 12 years later, everything is on fire. A man's trapped in the chaos, yelling for someone to help him. He's desperate and clearly messed up, hoping word gets out to the Alliance about what's happening. The man looks desperate as he faces, who's all grown up now. He's willing to give anything, just hoping for some kind of mercy or favor. Surrounded by broken walls and bodies, he stood his ground, still trying to convince the others that his offer was worth it. Didn't get flustered. He just focused on what mattered to him, zeroing in on the one thing he wanted most at that moment. The guy leans in, looking curious and ready to hear what's up. He just grinned, looking right at him, and let him know that he wanted his life. The guy suddenly freaks out, trying to play it off like he was only joking around, but it's obvious he's not laughing. Keeps talking, letting the tension build. He looks straight at the guy, making it clear that if he can't hand over his life, there's going to be a problem. The air in the room feels heavy, like everyone's waiting to see what happens next. He decides to handle it on his own. The man's face twists with anger as he glares at the other guy. He looks like he's about to lose it, thinking the guy's messing with him on purpose. You can tell he's not just mad, he's ready to go off, almost like he might actually hurt someone if things get out of hand. Juan showed up out of nowhere behind him, not looking happy at all. He glanced at the guy and clearly thought his attitude was just as bad as the way he looked. He hits the guy with so much force that he goes flying backward. The ground split open as something heavy slammed down, carving out a deep hole and kicking up a thick cloud of dust that hung in the air. The opponent starts yelling, looking fired up and ready to go. He's not messing around. He even makes it clear he wants to take one down and show off to the Alliance. The air feels tense, like something big is about to happen. He doesn't waste any time and rushes forward, slicing the guy clean in half. After the fight ended, a woman walked over to him and called him leader. She let him know that someone wanted her to bring him something. She held a tray with the item on it, waiting until he was done before handing it over. One stood there, blood on his clothes, but still managing a smile. He looked over at Mo Young, clearly grateful that she'd waited around for him. Even after everything he'd just been through, he took a moment to show he appreciated her patience. Handed over a scroll and pointed out the blood on his face. The guy didn't really care, though. He just took the scroll, not bothered by the mess at all. The two guys stood in front of the building as it burned, the flames lighting up their faces. He wonders if this is really it, or if maybe something new is just about to start. He tossed the scroll over to her, making it clear she needed to take it to the Alliance. With that move, he let everyone know he was done. He decided to step back and retire. They walked away from the burning building, the heat fading behind them. Looked over, wondering if he planned to go back home now that everything was done. He nodded, letting her know he'd finished what he came to do with the Alliance. She wonders if she could visit him once she retires too. He's cool with it, saying she should drop by if she ever finds herself super bored. She really wants to know where to find him, not letting it go until she gets an answer. He lets her know he'll be staying in County Hubei. Sat quietly on the boat, watching the water drift by. Time felt like it was stretching out forever, and he couldn't help but wonder just how long he'd been out there. The steady movement of the boat and the endless water around him made everything feel slower, like the world had hit pause for a bit. He thinks back to the time he walked away from his family and decided to join the Alliance, hoping to get stronger. He remembered when he first joined 12 years ago. Back then, he never imagined he'd end up leading anyone, but things changed after he came up with his own style of martial arts. That's what set him apart and got everyone to start looking up to him. He grins, thinking he's finally ready to start his own crew. On the boat, he couldn't help but think about how far he'd come. He managed to save up enough cash to actually buy a mansion, which felt kind of unreal. Now, there was news about a perfect place being up for sale. Right now, it seemed like everything in his life was lining up just right. He let out a quiet laugh, thinking maybe luck was finally on his side. He couldn't hold it in and just started laughing, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. The old boatman noticed how pumped was acting, realized he was getting a bit carried away, and tried to calm himself down, a little embarrassed about getting so hyped in front of everyone. He tells the boatman he's heading out to sign some papers for a mansion. It's not just any mansion. He's been planning to start his own sect there for as long as he can remember. The boatman takes a look at him, kind of surprised at how young he is to be leading something like that. He quietly reminded himself that the only house up for sale in the area was the rumored haunted mansion. While he was lost in thought, Juan noticed and wondered why he seemed distracted. The boatman just shrugs it off and wishes good luck with starting his new sect, nods and thanks him, feeling pretty sure of himself. He figures the only thing left now is signing the contract, and can't help but wonder what could actually mess things up at this point. He keeps laughing. When he finally gets there, something totally unexpected is waiting for him. He stands in front of a rundown building, checking if this was really the spot. The guy with him nods and points out how big the place is, clearly excited about it. He grabs the guy, annoyed and suspicious, thinking he's about to get ripped off. Tries to stay calm and explains how hard it was to find this spot. He tells him to just check the place out before making any decisions. While they walk around inside, can't help but notice how dirty everything is. It's not just messy. The whole place looks like nobody's taken care of it in ages. Dust is everywhere, and stuff's just scattered around, making it pretty obvious no one's been managing things here. Kept talking, letting everyone know the place was huge, with 45 rooms to explore. He also mentioned there were 5 training areas scattered around, 1 big one and 4 smaller ones. He didn't expect to find 5 different training grounds out back. It caught him off guard, and he wondered what kind of group used to own this place. Just shrugged it off, saying he had no idea. This mansion was ancient, and he was only here to sell it. He starts to believe the place could work for starting a sect if he puts in some effort, but isn't so sure. He lets out a sigh, trying to figure out what's actually wrong with the place. He just wants someone to be straight with him and tell him what's up. Shrugged it off like it wasn't a big deal, but then dropped a weird fact. Every person who owned the mansion before ended up dead. Juan just stared for a second, not sure if he heard that right. Turns out all the past owners died from heart failure, and there was nothing else wrong with them. No bruises or cuts, just gone just like that. Kept talking, laying out the facts. Every person who bought the mansion before ended up dead on their very first night there, which is why people started saying the place was haunted. They'd even brought in guards and Taoist masters to try and fix things, but nothing ever worked. Juan's anger started to show. He couldn't help but wonder if was messing with him on purpose, trying to keep him stuck in this spot. Obviously scared, panicked and blurted out a crazy low price, way less than what it was worth. Then, realizing how much he dropped it, he quickly changed his mind and settled for just 4 silver ingots. His mood flips in an instant. He starts laughing, throws an arm over shoulder, and hands over the bag of cash. Looking back, he figures should just told him the price up front. Then all that confusion wouldn't have happened. Finally relaxed, glad things had worked out. He looked at him, kind of proud, since brave moves like that were just what you'd expect from someone who used to lead the Great Blue Sky Unit, the Ghost Hunters. Handed over the deed to the mansion, passing along the responsibility with it. Juan grabs the deed, slipping it into his pocket. Heads for the door, but just before he steps out, he pauses. For a second, his eyes dart around like he's spotted something off. When someone checks in on him, he just brushes it off and acts like everything's fine, not giving any real explanation. Let Juan know he was done helping out, making it clear he was stepping back now. He tossed in a joke about surviving the night and tracking him down if he actually made it. Juan seemed determined, letting know he'd make it through and see him again. After walks away, he's left standing by himself in the old, crumbling courtyard. He lets out a long sigh, the kind that just slips out when everything feels heavy. Out of nowhere, he shouts out, way louder than usual. He can't help himself. He's just so happy. Standing there, it finally hits him. This huge place is actually his. After everything, he's got his own mansion now, and honestly, he can barely believe it. He bursts through the door, grinning and barely able to hold back his excitement. He can't stop laughing as he thinks about how the only thing left to do is others find some new followers for his sect. He comes to a sudden stop, glancing around at all the clutter and dust piling up. It hits him that the place could really use a good cleaning before he does anything else. He jumps right into the job, grabbing a cloth and moving up and down the halls, wiping the floors and making sure the corridors are clean. He kept cleaning, figuring he'd be finished as soon as he took care of the main hall. He waits by the main hall entrance, ready to get this last thing done and over with. When he steps into the hall, his eyes land on something sitting right in the center of the room. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he walks over, thinking maybe whoever was here before just left it behind. He grabs the sword, checking it out. It looks pretty fancy, definitely not the kind of thing you find lying around every day. He figures it could be worth some cash, and the thought of scoring something valuable out of nowhere puts a small grin on his face. The moment he grabs it, his head starts spinning and everything around him blurs. He can't tell where he is anymore, like the room just disappeared. Out of nowhere, a weird glowing screen pops up in front of him. It calls him an examinee, says he's a martial artist, and tells him his goal is to build a sect. There's even a rating, rank 2, which turns out to be higher than anyone else's so far. Juan just stares at the screen, totally caught off guard, trying to figure out what's happening. He looks totally lost, barely managing to duck out of the way as something comes flying straight for his head. Out of nowhere, the system let everyone know it was about to make the test harder. Juan suddenly thinks back to story about what happened to the last owners. He puts it together in his head. This test is probably the same thing that got them on their first night. Out of nowhere, some weird gadget drops down from the ceiling. The system kicks in and lets everyone know the test is about to start, and it's not pulling any punches. It's set to the hardest level. He stands in a bright, weird-looking room, the kind that almost hurts your eyes. He takes a breath, tightens his fists, and gets set for whatever challenge is about to hit him. He doesn't back down, choosing to face it head-on, ready for whatever's next. The system pops up and lets everyone know the test will take place in the Hall of Strength. He stands his ground and blocks the attack without flinching. Even though the pressure is on, he faces his opponent head-on, ready for whatever comes next. Deep down, he wants everyone to see that he's not just some regular guy. They need to know he used to lead the Alliance's Great Blue Sky Unit. This is his chance to show what he's made of. He gets ready, standing strong and waiting for whatever's about to happen. As soon as he does, the system jumps in and says it's starting up the Sect system. Everything vanished in an instant. 1 second he was somewhere else, and the next he found himself back in the main hall. He just stood there, confused, trying to piece together what had just happened. He loses his balance and steps back, calling out for help. The next morning was already in his office, looking like he hadn't missed a beat. Juan walked in, spotted him, and gave a casual nod. He didn't seem rattled or anything, just asked if had noticed anything weird last night. He bursts into his office, his face twisted with anger. Not holding back, he grabs by the shirt and gets right in his face. He can't believe kept something this big from him. In that heated moment, the system pops up. He keeps yelling, waving his hand at the empty air where a blue window hangs, even though nobody else can see it. He tries to explain that this weird thing has been stuck with him since last night and just wants to know what it actually is. Gives him a weird look, as if he's not seeing anything out of the ordinary. It's obvious he doesn't notice what the other guy is talking about. He seems a bit confused, maybe thinking the other dude must have knocked his head or something last night. He finally lets go, still grumbling under his breath, catches the moment and flashes a sneaky smile, acting like he's ready to take the mansion back if it would make things less stressful. He turns down the offer, saying he still needs the mansion. With the sect's opening ceremony coming up, there's a ton of stuff he has to get ready for. He started going over what he needed, saying he was looking for about 20 uniforms. He asked if he knew any good places to buy fabric. Said he could point him to some fabric shops close by, but let him know that getting a good deal might be tough at the moment. He points out that everyone's caught up trying to impress the trading company. That name rings a bell for most people. Nods, thinking about how the company's been the main supplier of fabric to the royal family for a long time. Went on, explaining just how powerful the trading company really was. Even in the world where strong groups usually stuck to their own side, this company managed to work with everyone, both the good and the bad. The big clans didn't mess with them lightly, always careful when dealing with the company. He takes a sip of his tea, tossing a smug look at one. With a quick jab, he points out that fabrics are way too expensive for one's wallet and totally out of reach. One knows the guy's right, but it still stings to hear it out loud. Figured most people would probably think twice before messing with the owner of a haunted mansion. He suggested checking out the usual fabric shops instead. At the same time, the system window popped up, clearly annoyed about being called a ghost pet. Someone just told it to keep it down. He freezes for a second, something clicking in his mind. He just signed the paperwork for the mansion yesterday, so it doesn't make sense that everyone's already talking about it being haunted. Just shrugged and shot back a cold response, tossing out an old saying about how news gets around quicker than anyone can run. He squinted, his face turning serious as it hit him that was the one who started the rumor. Just stood there, not even trying to act innocent. With a sigh, he figured it didn't matter anyway, At least the rumor was getting his new sect some attention. Stands there, shaking. He tries to calm himself down, thinking that since Juan made it out okay, maybe this place isn't as bad as it seems. He keeps telling himself there's nothing to worry about, trying to convince himself that everything's under control. One of the guys steps up to him, clearly upset. He starts yelling, blaming him for the haunted mansion and all the trouble that's been going on. Down at the fabric street, a vendor just shakes his head and lets the guy know he's not interested in doing business with him. The vendor stays totally calm, making it clear the answer's no. The merchant shuts the shop door right in his face, making it clear he's not going to sell him anything. One of the guys tries to get the merchant to hear him out, but it's obvious the answer isn't changing. The merchant suddenly chucks something right at his face and tells him to back off. He glares at him, calling him a cursed ghost man and acting like he doesn't want anything to do with him. As he heads off, he catches people whispering behind him. He can tell the rumors are already starting up again, and it bugs him how fast word gets around. He takes a deep breath, trying to keep it together so no one thinks the guy they call the Heavenly Healer is losing it. Suddenly, he catches someone yelling at another person to back off. He turns around and spots a man with a kid in his arms. The boy, Wu, is holding on tight, clearly upset, yelling about how the man said he'd help his sister get better. An old man hurried over to them, clearly looking for, told him what happened, how these warriors had fooled him, took his money, and then left without helping his sister at all. The man loses his temper and throws a punch right at its face. He's clearly frustrated, blaming his sister and saying even the doctors can't help her anymore. While this is happening, the elder calls out's name, his voice echoing through the room as he watches the boy get hit. The old man stepped in when he saw what the guys were wearing. He realized right away they were part of the sect. The oldest-looking guy in the group gave a look to one of his men, making it clear they needed to deal with this quietly so their leader wouldn't find out. The big guy grinned, stretching out his fingers like he was getting ready for something. He looked at the old man and the boy, making it clear he thought they'd messed up by not showing some respect. Now, thanks to them, he figured he had no choice but to deal with things his own way, and it wouldn't be pretty. The huge guy grins in this annoying, smug way, like he's trying to mess with everyone. Before he even has a chance to react, Juan steps in and lands a hard kick right to his face. The man drops to the ground, completely out cold. The top guy from the sect just stands there, frozen, trying to process what just happened. People started yelling, trying to figure out who the attacker was. Everyone looked around, searching for any clue about who could have done it. The tension in the room spiked as the crowd grew restless, some people edging closer, hoping to catch a glimpse of the person responsible. One of the guys just stands there, totally calm. He glances over at the old man and the kid, then turns his attention back to the other man. He doesn't seem bothered that not everyone knows who he is yet, but he still gives his name, just being polite about it. He steps up without hesitation and lets everyone know his name, Juan. He makes it clear he's the one in charge of the Heavenly Bliss sect, not bothering to play it down or act shy about it. The senior member of the Bet sect glared, clearly ticked off, as he tried to figure out why some random group thought they could mess with his sect's business. The older guy charges forward, not wasting any time. Juan reacts fast, swinging at his opponent's hand with a sharp, strong move. He stood above the guys he just knocked down, looking calm and unfazed. He didn't rush or show off, just pointed out that judging people by their names wasn't really smart. He points out how it's even worse when someone jumps in without having a clue about how good the other person actually is. Another guy gets fired up and comes at them, making a big scene as he throws out threats, wanting to know who's brave enough to go against the Bet crew. He wonders if the guy actually understands what's going on. Juan moves fast, slipping past the punch aimed at him. He doesn't waste any time and throws a quick punch right back, landing it straight on the other guy's face. He stays calm through it all, acting like he doesn't even know what's going on. After knocking the guy to the ground, the squad leader paused for a second, looking like something just clicked in his head. He started thinking, kind of confused, about whether the guy he just fought, once known as the great master of the Alliance's Blue Sky, was actually the one who bought that haunted mansion everyone had been talking about. One guy covers his face, clearly annoyed, while the other just stands there, looking totally thrown off. The first guy seems to be thinking to himself, frustrated and irritated, trying to figure out just how many people have actually heard this ridiculous rumor about him. He was frustrated that the rumor had messed things up so much he couldn't even get his uniform. The whole situation just felt annoying to deal with. He looks over at the guy, clearly annoyed by all the talking behind his back. He's had enough and wants the guy to step up and face him directly, ready to settle things in a real fight. The man sees this as a direct challenge in front of everyone. He launches himself at the guy, ready to fight, with his mind set on teaching him a lesson for showing off. The two guys go head to head, neither neither one holding back. Every hit is heavy enough to crack the ground under their feet. Dust and debris fly everywhere as their fight gets more intense, the ground looking like it's about to give way from all the impact. Moves fast, dodging quick strikes from his opponent. He stays sharp, but someone else tries to catch him off guard from behind. He steps in fast, blocking their attacks. Before they can react, he lands the last hits that take them down. The guys from the sect hit the ground, totally wiped out. The man hit the ground hard, his mind spinning from what just happened. He stared up, trying to process it all, while someone nearby pointed out that he'd found the challenge he was looking for. He picks up the huge sword he found in the mansion, his eyes sharp with determination. He makes it clear to the man that if he ever wants to throw down, he can come find him at the Heavenly Bliss Sect. He hints that it's better for the guy to leave now if he doesn't want things to get even messier. The guys from the sect take off fast, clearly not planning to let things go. Juan looks over at the elder and checking if they're all right after all the chaos. Looks back at him, calling him a warrior, clearly impressed by what just happened. Wu jumped up, clearly pumped, and let Juan know he was still on the hunt for a uniform. He mentioned that his sister was really good at making clothes, almost like he was proud of her skills. He drops down fast, bending at the waist, head low. He's desperate, showing how much he needs help for his sister. Juan's cheeks turned red as he tried to brush things off, suggesting the guy should probably see a doctor about it. Just then, a blue system window popped up beside him, catching his attention. A message pops up on the window, letting everyone know there's a new business opportunity. It also shows that the target's ranked 3rd. The boy sees this and can't help but smile, looking a little more hopeful than before. Right away, his face lights up. He starts to smile, checking out the rank 3 and thinking it actually seems pretty decent. Curious now, he wants to hear more, so he looks at the boy, waiting for the details. As they walked along, Wu talked about what happened last year when their parents passed away. Now, it was just him and his sister trying to get by on their own. Juan remembered how his sister was always good with her hands, making things and fixing stuff around the house. Because of that, they could get by, even when things got tough. But now, she was sick with something that made her arms and legs stiff and hard to move. Juan couldn't stop thinking about how weird this illness was. He wants to know how the elder knows his family. The elder tells him he owns a little fabric shop in the next village. He used to give the boy's sister small jobs there, but after a while, she stopped coming around and he couldn't reach her anymore. That's when he started to get concerned. Wu walked ahead, with Juan and the elder following close behind. He reached his house and let everyone know they'd made it. Juan and stepped into the old, beat-up hut. Juan glanced around, not exactly thrilled to be inside, half expecting the roof to fall in at any second. Didn't seem to care at all. He hurried ahead, calling out for his sister, eager to let her know he'd brought someone who could help. Someone steps in and tries to set the record straight, wanting everyone to know what really happened. He comes to a sudden stop, eyes widening as he sees hands stretching out right into the blazing fire. But somehow, they aren't getting burned at all. A girl showed up, just chilling by the fire like she belonged there. She looked over at the new guys, probably sizing them up, wanting to know what their deal was. He stares wide-eyed as calmly puts her arms right into the fire. The flames curl around her skin, but she doesn't even flinch or pull away. It's like the heat doesn't bother her at all. Watching this, he finally gets how serious things are with her. It's way worse than he thought. He gets an update from the system, letting him know that the heat and chill in her arms and legs are kind of evening out. Someone nearby figures it could be because her energy inside works with yin, so this whole thing might just be a side effect. He walks up, says who he is, and lets her know that her brother sent him to help. He wonders if the fire hurts her, but just calmly says she's fine. She tells him that if she doesn't keep herself warm like this, she could get really bad frostbite. The old man looks worried and wants to know why she stopped talking to them. Lowers her head, looking sorry, and admits that her body has started acting weird lately, which is why she stayed away. Juan reached out, wanting to check her pulse just to be sure about what he was thinking. She nodded, a little anxious, and reminded him to make it quick. As he checks things out, the system pops up a warning, letting him know he's taking in too much yin energy. Apparently, this isn't good news. It could actually be risky, and he needs to watch out. He tells it to quiet down, leaving confused since she doesn't see anything. The system shows that too much yin energy has gotten into her body. He nods, showing that he gets it. He figures out that she has something called extreme yin constitution. It's not common, and it means her body keeps pulling in yin energy from around her, holding on to it non-stop. He thinks about how the Sword Queen, who runs the Sword Pavilion and is known as one of the 10 Celestials, has this same trait. So thought about it for a second. She didn't know who this girl was, but from what she'd heard, the girl seemed pretty cool. Maybe someone others looked up to or talked about in a good way. Someone points out that this special trait is great for martial artists, but for her, it's become a problem. She's taken in way too much yin energy, and now she doesn't have nearly enough yang to even things out. He breaks the news to her. If things keep going like this, she won't make it past 3 months. Deep down, she probably already knew it. She wasn't surprised at all. She'd kind of seen this coming. There was a hint of sadness as she wondered if there was any way to fix things. Meanwhile, Wu just lost it. He got mad fast, calling the guy out and saying he was just another fake, no better than the rest. One of the guys lets the older man know that just giving him food isn't really going to help, and it could actually make things harder. He figures out that the real trick is finding a steady way to get his yang energy back. The system pops up with a way out for him. If he finishes the Essence quest, he'll get Essence, something he can use to help the Sect members heal faster. The screen also breaks down how minor healing works. Spend 50 Essence and it boosts both health and energy recovery. Just as he's taking that in, another quest shows up. This time, he has to secure the first disciple, and if he pulls it off, he'll earn 50 Essence as a reward. He suddenly sees a chance right in front of him. If he helps get better, he could also end up with a new student. It's like solving 2 problems at once, and he can't ignore how good that sounds. He turns to the group, his eyes lighting up as he shares some good news. He thinks he's figured something out. He looks right at and tells her she can join him as his student in the Heavenly Bliss Sect. Couldn't hide how surprised she was when he made the sudden offer. She looked at him, clearly confused, trying to figure out why he'd ask her to become his disciple. He just wants her to believe in him for once. She hesitates, unsure about jumping into something she's never tried before. Martial arts isn't really her thing, and getting asked out of the blue like this catches her off guard. She thinks back to all the times she's heard martial artists go on about doing the right thing and acting honorable. But honestly, she doesn't buy it. In her eyes, they're just looking out for themselves. She thinks back to the way those people always acted like they wanted to help, but really, they were just doing whatever was best for them. Her parents got caught up in one of their fights, and that's how she lost them. She worries this guy could end up just like the others, acting helpful at first, then leaving her when things get tough. She can't figure out why he's pushing her to join the martial artists, especially since she really doesn't like them. She spots Juan's hand and realizes it's turned pale and stiff from the cold after he touched her pulse. He reached out his hand to her, a small smile on his face. He didn't mind helping, especially if it meant she could get better. For him, it was simple. If this was what she needed, he was there. She freezes for a second, surprised by how he responds. In her head, she starts to question if maybe this guy isn't like everyone else. She lets out a long breath, realizing she really doesn't have any other options. If this is what it takes to fix her body, she's ready to go through with it. She decides to give him one more chance and goes along with what he asks. As soon as says yes, something only he can see pops up, letting him know he finished the challenge to get his first disciple. It shows he just earned 50 essence. At the same time, it picks up on the frostbite hurting his hand. He quickly grabs some essence and uses it to patch himself up, starting a small healing process right away. Stands there as a soft light wraps around her, almost like someone just turned on a gentle spotlight above her head. She looks down and notices her hands are starting to feel warmer, the sensation slowly spreading through her fingers. It's not what she expected, but it doesn't feel bad, just strange and kind of comforting at the same time. One of the guys grins when he sees that everything's actually working. At the same time, the system lets everyone know it's starting to heal and focus energy. Her energy picks up inside, running faster as she gets more focused. He starts to notice something changing inside him. The cold that messed him up before doesn't feel as strong, and it's like his strength is slowly coming back. It's a weird relief, almost like getting warmed up after being out in freezing weather too long. The system let everyone know that the sect members' yang energy was starting to come back. Glances down at her arms and legs, not really believing what she's seeing. Her hands and feet look totally fine now, no cuts or bruises left. She can't help but check them over a couple more times, making sure she's not just imagining it. Wu ran over and hugged his sister tight, relieved she was okay. Nearby, the old elder stared at Juan, clearly surprised at what just happened. The elder tried to figure out if it used some kind of special energy to help, but just shrugged it off, not really giving a straight answer. Out of nowhere, the elder bursts into laughter, catching everyone off guard. He looks at, clearly impressed by what just happened. He can't help but think that is exactly the kind of guy he respects, someone who stands out and gets noticed by important people. Now he gets why the leader of the alliance thinks so highly of. The whole thing just makes sense to him now. He's caught off guard for a second, trying to figure out how this older guy seems to know the alliance leader. The elder suddenly remembers he never said his name. He finally lets everyone know who he really is. He's Gam Young, the guy in charge of the trading company. People also call him Master. At the same time, over at the White Sword Sect's headquarters, things were moving along as usual. The place had its usual buzz, with people going about their routines and not suspecting anything out of the ordinary. The leader wasn't happy. He stood in front of his group looking pretty annoyed. His guys had just lost to, and not just any loss, they got embarrassed by this new group that nobody had even heard of before. He wanted to know how they let things get so out of hand. The guys hung their heads, not meeting his eyes, clearly knowing they messed up. The leader's frustration was obvious. He expected better from them. The man, known for being at the top top was getting hit hard. He couldn't hold back and started yelling, the pain obvious on his face. Even though he was supposed to be the strongest, right now he just looked helpless. The room felt tense, probably making everyone watching uncomfortable. The leader just glanced at him, totally unfazed. He didn't really care about how much pain the guy was in. In his mind, whatever hurt the guy was feeling now didn't even come close to the embarrassment or hate the world would throw at him later. That was the real punishment, the stuff people would say, and the way they'd look at him after this. He tells his guys to haul everyone off to the punishment room, not even looking back as they beg him to stop. At the White Sword Sect's main building, the guy who lost stands in front of his leader. He looks desperate, hoping we'll let him try again. The leader acts like he didn't even hear the plea. His mind is somewhere else, focused on Juan from the Heavenly Sword Sect. He thinks about what to do next, and figures he should get ready to throw an awesome welcome party for him. Back at the hut, Bakery couldn't stop thinking about the old man he just met. He sat there, replaying everything in his head, trying to figure out who the guy really was. The whole situation just didn't add up, and it kept bugging him as he stared at the ceiling, lost in thought. He looks the guy straight in the eye, wanting to know if this is actually the boss of the Yellow Dragon Chamber. Ga, the old man, lets out a laugh, making it clear who he really is. The guy watching him always thought there was something different about this man, but he never expected him to be this important. So felt bad that she hadn't noticed who Gam Young really was. She wanted to say sorry, but Gam Young just brushed it off, making it clear he didn't think it was a big deal. Now he turns toward Juan and gestures for him to join the Yellow Dragon Chamber. He's determined to be there for him, ready to help out whenever he's needed. He starts to understand just how big this offer is. The Yellow Dragon Chamber isn't just any group. It's a huge merchant guild, the kind that even handles clothes and silk for the royal family. The system looks at him and basically thinks he could turn into a top business partner. He knows all the best martial arts masters work for them. Ga has so much influence that even a simple decision from him could totally change how things stand between the Alliance and the Demonic Union. Even though this could open a lot of doors for him, he realizes it's just not what he wants for his life. He's grateful for the offer, but he knows he can't accept it, so he turns it down. He grinned, looking pretty proud, as he let everyone know he'd just taken on his first student. Gam Young's eyebrows pull together as he tries to figure out why someone would turn down his offer, especially since he's the leader of the Yellow Dragon Chamber. One guy turned down the offer, but he wasn't done yet. He wanted Gam Young to let him try making a deal with the chamber instead. If Gam Young agreed, he said he'd help the Yellow Dragon Chamber get the recognition it was looking for. Ga gets annoyed by how full of himself this guy is. He can't figure out how someone who doesn't matter could ever make him popular. He says he's got a plan. In 10 years, he's going to build his own sect, one that can compete with the 9 righteous sects and the 7 demonic gates. He thinks that should be enough to even things out. Ga couldn't believe what he was hearing. To him, the claim sounded ridiculous, especially coming from a group that hadn't even had their first official meeting yet. Meanwhile, one of the guys in the group just stayed cool, acting like this outcome was totally expected. Gam Young couldn't help but laugh out loud. He realized Juan really had the guts to say stuff most people wouldn't even think about. He mentions that the fame he talked about isn't actually meant for. This leaves confused, not really sure what's going on or why things turned out this way. He lays out his plan, wanting to handle whatever comes next for the Yellow Dragon Chamber. He asks Gam Young for a favor. He wants to meet Gam Young's student. Gam Young pauses for a second, thinking it over. Then he gives a small nod, deciding to go along with it. He lets the guy know that his student will head over to the sect soon. After that, it's up to the student to decide whether or not he wants to go through with the trade. Gam Young lets him know that if his group even looks let down, things could go bad. He's going to face the consequences for what he did. One of the guys just shrugs it off, acting like everything's under control and there's nothing to stress about. Ga let everyone know that things were finished. Out of nowhere, he raised his voice and told someone to go get silk. Outside the hut, a group showed up with a cart packed full of stuff. The servants were already there, waiting for Gam Young. When he came out, they got down on their knees to greet him. Known as Master shows up with a massive stack of silk. He hands it to Juan, wanting him to take it as a deposit, and to say thanks for the cool idea Juan came up with. And Wu can't help but be impressed by how generous he is. Juan takes the gift and nods, grateful for it. As he holds it, he can't help but think about how strong and his crew really are. Deep down, he knows these guys are the real deal. As walks away, he can't help but dwell on how full of himself Juan is. His bold claim about making him famous sits in his mind, reminding him of another guy he's known before, someone with the exact same attitude. He pulls out his phone and dials one of his guys. Since they were already out, he decided it was a good chance to drop by and see an old friend. He told them to head over to the Demonic Union. He grinned, remembering it had been ages since he hung out and had a drink with the union's leader. Back at Bakery One's headquarters, the place looks spotless and way nicer than before. Proud of her work, shows off a new robe she made. He checks it out and can't hide how much he likes it, thinking it's just right for him. He shows up in this really cool-looking robe, and right away, a message pops up from the system saying it's made from heavenly silk. Apparently, it boosts how confident and impressive he seems. So looked pretty happy that he liked the robe. She seemed a little nervous too, since this was her first time dealing with silk that nice. The guy moved around in the new robe, clearly comfortable and maybe a bit impressed by how it felt. Off to the side, Wu watched them, clearly admiring how things were going. Out of nowhere, a glowing system window popped up in front of him. It told him he'd just made some seriously top-tier clothing, and now he had to pick a reward. He notices a reward screen pop up. It's giving him 3 choices: an advanced healing move, a special drink that boosts talent, or a chance to unlock a unique skill. He thought the technique and elixir sounded pretty cool, but before diving into those, he figured unlocking a unique trait would be the move. The system suddenly let him know he could check out his disciple's traits now. On his screen's profile popped up. She was 17, and it said she was born with an extreme yin body, which basically gave her crazy potential for martial arts. The only catch, she wasn't very active, so her stamina was pretty low. The system showed some traits he could unlock for her, like diligence, hardship, and responsibility. But right when he thought he could do it, a warning flashed. Didn't have enough internal energy yet, so trait unlocking was off the table for now. He just couldn't figure out why none of the options worked for him. It bugged him, and he kept thinking about it, getting more annoyed with every second. The system lays it out straight. The disciple needs to train and level up before any of the cool traits become available. It doesn't seem fair, and it's hard not to get a little annoyed about it. He realizes he has to step up and help get stronger. If grows, they'll be able to unlock more abilities together. He looked over at her and let her know it was time to get serious about training. Starts to get nervous, thinking about whether she'll actually be any good at martial arts. Her mind keeps going over all the possible ways things could go wrong, and she can't help but worry about messing up in front of everyone. He worries about messing up. She thinks back to what he said before, promising that things would turn out okay. He made it sound like he could help her out and maybe even help her become someone better. She takes a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. After a moment, she makes up her mind to trust him. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she looks at him, excited to find out what the first technique will be. He explains that her first lesson is the horse stance, which some people call the rider's stance. She looks let down, clearly hoping for something cooler than what she got. He lets her know that this is the best way to start building up her weak stamina. For now, she just needs to put her energy into getting stronger. She looks over, wondering how long she's supposed to stay like that. He just grins, says the goal is to last about an hour, and then suddenly gets serious, signaling for her to begin right away. She stands there, looking like she's made up her mind, but there's still a bit of uncertainty in her eyes. She wasn't sure about all this. Martial arts seemed totally new to her, and she couldn't help but wonder if she'd actually be able to pull it off. He tried to ease her mind, pointing out that her body had some special qualities, something rare that could really help her out. He points out that her body just naturally builds up energy inside. Even though it's the yin kind, things will settle down once she forms a core for it. He feels pretty lucky, realizing she's got some serious talent he doesn't want to lose. Rushed over to him, clearly freaking out. The guy hands over a sealed letter and says it's from the White Sword Sect. Looks uneasy and asks one if he knows who leads that group. He gets the letter and quickly figures out it's about the guys he beat up yesterday. Meanwhile, Wu's still ranting about them, calling them all kinds of names. As he read the letter, he realized it was an invitation for his new sect, the Heavenly Sword Sect. They were being asked to join a martial arts tournament. Lets everyone know that the White Sword Sect pretty much runs things around here. Their leader is known for having a short fuse and doesn't waste time crushing weaker groups, pretending it's all just for fun or some friendly competition. People around the area keep their guard up whenever this guy's name comes up. He thinks it's weird that someone so important would bother with their messed up group. One guy gets irritated by what he thinks is an insult aimed at his group, notices he's upset and quickly tries to clear things up, saying he didn't mean it that way. Bakery catches on pretty quick. He realizes the leader just wants to embarrass this new sect. Honestly, he thinks it's kind of funny. A small grin shows up on his face as he watches everything play out. He saw this as the perfect chance to get his sect noticed. Meanwhile, his disciple couldn't help but feel uneasy about the whole thing. He noticed there were just the two of them, and he couldn't help but wonder if she'd slow him down. He catches her off guard when he lets her know she's the one stepping into the tournament, and she'll be doing it solo. After she hears what's said, it takes her a second to really take it all in. She panics when she realizes she's going to have to fight by herself. Later that night, sprawled out on the floor, wiped out from all the training, she noticed she couldn't keep up like she used to and kept thinking about why she had to do so many horse stances. The whole thing just felt unnecessary to her, and she couldn't help but wonder if there was a point to all this. She hadn't picked up a sword all day. The only moves she knew were those simple cuts they teach little kids. As the tournament got closer, now less than 2 weeks out, her nerves started acting up even more. She couldn't stop thinking about what might happen, and it felt like the pressure was building by the day. Even when she tried to distract herself, her mind kept drifting back to the big event. She really can't figure out what her sect leader is up to. She thinks back to when he smiled at her, making everything seem okay. That memory gives her the push she needs, so she gets up right away, ready to go find him and ask what's going on. She walks into his room and sees that he's already up. He sat hunched over, trying to sew together a piece of clothing, clearly struggling more than he expected. She watched from nearby, noticing how he always seemed to talk to himself when things got tough. Right then, a system notification popped up, letting him know that the bleeding from his 23rd self-inflicted wound had started again. Annoyed, he wanted the system to just stop bothering him. She waits quietly outside the door, keeping an eye on him from a distance. He's thinking to himself, kind of expecting to start getting tired of practicing the horse stance soon. He knows he needs to hurry up and finish making her training clothes before she comes looking for him. He lifts the finished robe and checks it over, hoping she'll think it's cool. She saw what he was doing for her, and it really got to her. Without saying anything, she headed back to her room. Out of nowhere, the system popped up with a message saying sense of responsibility was about to level up. He gets caught off guard when a new notification pops up. The day finally comes for the tournament at the White Sword Sect. At the registration table, a few officials stood around, looking annoyed. They didn't get why a simple friendly match had turned into a full-blown tournament. One of them mentioned that word had already gotten out about their guys losing to the Heavenly Bliss Sect, and it was obvious that news was traveling fast. They figure out that the leader wants to use the tournament to put them on display in front of everyone. It's pretty clear he wants to show the other sects what happens if anyone steps up to the sect. One of the officials grins, clearly thinking these newcomers have no idea what they're getting into. But then, his face changes as he glances up, caught off guard by something he didn't see coming. Juan and stood in front of him, looked calm, just waiting for him to show where he was supposed to sign. The official just stood there, caught off guard, as she handed over the sign paper. He couldn't help but glance at her, thinking about how the sect might just pick their members for their looks. She really was pretty cute, and it made him wonder for a moment if that was part of the job description. One of them gets annoyed when the person at the registration desk throws a sarcastic look at her clothes. Later, back at the sect headquarters, Juan showed his disciple the new robe he'd made. He knew his sewing skills weren't exactly top-notch, but he still wanted to know what she thought. Even though the stitching was a bit rough, his disciple was honestly just really happy to have it. Seeing her reaction, Juan felt a little relieved, realizing that the effort mattered more than how perfect it looked. The tournament arena buzzed with excitement as everyone gathered around. The head of the White Sword Sect stepped up in front of the crowd. He let everyone know that the White Sword dueling tournament was about to begin. The tournament wasn't just about fighting. It was also meant to help the different sects get along and build some trust between them. He mentions that this event is especially for the new buds, the ones who'll carry things forward. That's why he's brought out a little gift just for them. When the gift gets opened, everyone sees it's just a low-level clarity pill. The guys in the crowd aren't expecting that, and it catches them off guard. The system revealed that the item was a rare elixir made by the people from. Taking it would boost someone's chi and blood, making them stronger inside, and helping their energy center develop. Steps up and tells everyone that whoever wins the tournament will get this pill as a prize. Right away, the crowd perks up. People in the stands start talking, pretty impressed by how generous he is. You can tell everyone's pumped, eyeing the prize and thinking about their chances. The assistant walked over to the leader and let him know that everything was set for the draw. He grins to himself, pretty sure these guys have no idea what they're up against. In his head, he's already decided they won't even think about messing with his crew again. He decides he's going to prove just how much stronger he really is compared to them. The scene shifted over to Tournament Area 3, where the preliminary round was about to kick off. Stands there, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. Her stomach's tight, and she can't stop thinking about whether she's got what it takes to do a good job. Juan tried to calm her down, reminding her about the training they'd done. She couldn't help but get nervous, though all she could really remember was standing around in the horse stance. He wants her to trust him, since he was the one who trained her from the start. He lets her know she's gotten way stronger than before. She gives it a shot, even though she's still not sure it'll work. The first round kicked off in Area 3. Everyone got into position, sizing each other up, ready to see who would make it through. The tension was real, and you could tell no one wanted to mess up this early. The girl lets everyone know her name is, and she's from the Heavenly Bliss Sect. Across from her, the guy steps up and says he's Chong Sam, a third-generation student from the Blue Moon Sect. He looked at her and couldn't help but think she was totally out of her element. She clearly didn't have any experience, and honestly, it seemed like she'd never even picked up a sword before. She shifts around, clearly uneasy, and finally lets it slip that she's only been at this for a month. The guy across from her just rolls his eyes and starts acting like he's way above her, making it obvious he doesn't take her seriously. He gets all fired up, ready to show her how things are really done. He looks over at the referee and lets him know he's ready to go. He plants his feet and doesn't back down, ready for whatever she throws at him. Out of nowhere, she steps right up to him and lands a punch that drops him instantly. He hit the ground while everyone watching just stared, not really believing what just happened. The referee stood there, stunned that the whole match ended with just one hit. Bakery Juan smiled at her, like he was trying to remind her that he wanted her to trust him. The referee stood there, clearly surprised, and let everyone know that So from the Heavenly Bliss sect had won. Juan took a moment to go over his plan in his head. Over the last couple of weeks, he'd been showing her how to think like a real martial artist. It was something he kept reminding himself, knowing it could pay off soon. He points out that most beginners hold back when they're sparring because they don't want to hurt anyone. Using full force isn't easy when you're just starting out and still worried about going too hard. He realizes that isn't holding back like the rest of them. She can actually use all her strength. She sprints over to her leader, barely able to hide how pumped she is after her win. He watches her and figures she'll breeze through the main rounds. He figured he didn't need to stress about her anymore. Now seemed like a good time to walk around and check out if anyone else at the event looked interesting. Jin was just hanging around, not really paying much attention, when the referee called out his name for the next match. That got him to focus quick. He sees Jin take down his opponent in no time, barely giving the other guy a chance. The opponent tries to stall, but Jin doesn't slow down at all. The guy who lost just kind of accepts it. He knows he's beaten and doesn't try to argue or make excuses. You can tell he's not happy about it, but he's honest with himself and everyone watching. Jin doesn't even slow down when the other guy tries to give up. He just lifts his sword, and this intense red glow starts to shine around it, making him look even more serious. He slams his fist down on the guy who's already on the ground, not holding back at all. The other guy cries out, desperate for him to quit, but the hits keep coming. The referee steps in, making it clear that the match is done. Jin comes out on top. Someone S watching what's happening and just can't stand it. He sees Jin, and it's obvious the guy S got way more skill than his opponent. But instead of playing fair, Jin's using some pretty low moves. The onlooker's not impressed at all. He thinks Jin's the kind of person who will do whatever it takes to win, even if it means going dirty. So spots him and jogs over with a big smile on her face. She looks pretty excited, clearly proud that she made it to the main rounds. She beams with pride, eager to share how she put everything she had into the challenge and came out on top, just like he suggested. Out of nowhere, she gets this intense, uneasy vibe like someone dangerous is close by. It doesn't take her long to figure out it's coming from Jin, the guy everyone's watching. He lets her know that if things keep going like this, she'll probably end up going against him in the main rounds. Just then, someone steps in and gives them a nod for how far they've come. He lets So know who he really is, the guy in charge of the White Sword Sect. So didn't see that coming. He stands there, caught off guard, trying to process what this means. The whole situation just got a lot more intense for him. He tries to smooth things over, pretending to be sorry for how his guys acted the day before. One of the others doesn't really care, barely reacting. He just throws in a comment about how maybe the leader should spend more time teaching his crew how to behave. The leader just brushes off the insult like it's nothing and starts talking about how impressive is. He thinks it's pretty cool that someone as young as her made it to the main rounds. He mentions it's too bad her next match is against, and figures she probably won't make it much further. Still, he thinks she's got something special, so he invites her to join his group, thinking her skills could really stand out there. One of the guys shot back with a sarcastic thanks to the leader, pretending to appreciate his comments about the paintings, which was really about his own student. He threw in a jab, saying the disciples from the White Sword Sect might actually be a bit useful after all. Hearing that word gets under the leader's skin. He doesn't waste any time and signals to one of his guys, Val. He tells the guard to show Juan and to their rooms, hoping they have a good time for the rest of the event. One of them shrugs, not really sure how things will go, but thinking they might have a good time if things work out. While they walked together, explained who he was. He was the first sword disciple from the White Sword Sect. The system pointed out he was 21, built strong, and picked things up fast, especially when it came to learning new skills. He leads the group over to where they'll be crashing for the night. Out of nowhere, someone reaches over and checks out Bale's shoulder and arm muscles. He smiles and points out how tall and strong Bale looks. Bale's face goes red, and he kind of mumbles a thank you, clearly not used to getting compliments like that. He opens the guest room door in a hurry, lets them know they can chill there for a bit, and then walks out. So nodded at him, showing her thanks, and then looked over at, wanting to know what he thought about who she'd be up against next. But instead of giving his take, flipped it back, wanting to hear what she thought first. He keeps chatting with her, grinning as he mentions that he sees Bal kind of like a younger brother to her. She doesn't see that coming at all, and it really throws her off. The story jumps back in time. The guy in charge of the White Sword Sect is sitting across from a young man. He looks the kid up and down, wanting to know who he is. The young man tells him his name, Bao. The leader looks at the kid and notices how fit he is, especially for someone his age. It's clear the guy's got some serious potential. The leader decides right then that this kid is good enough to join the White Sword Sect as a disciple. Ball gives him an excited nod, looking genuinely grateful. He can't help but smile, clearly pumped about the help he just got. Later on, during a training match, he goes up against another disciple named Jin. The fight doesn't last long. Jin takes him down pretty easily. Everyone watching couldn't help but notice how impressive it was. Jin had just taken down a guy who was 3 years older than him. People started talking about it, some even posting about the match online. It wasn't every day someone that young managed to beat a more experienced fighter, and everyone was paying attention. Bao was on the ground, catching his breath, trying to get his point across to Jin. He wanted Jin to understand it was all just part of training, and things didn't have to get that intense. The leader looked away, realizing he'd been wrong about Bale. The young guy just stands there, frozen. He can hardly process what he's hearing from the leader. All this time, he thought he was something more, but now it's like his confidence just gets crushed. He's left staring, trying to make sense of everything, while the leader basically calls him out, saying he's just got the looks but nothing real inside. He tells him to spend the rest of his life cleaning up after the younger guys at work, not caring how harsh it sounds. The dream fades away and Bale snaps awake, heart pounding. He sits up, catching his breath, still shaken from whatever he just saw. It takes him a second to realize it was just a nightmare. He walks into his room and spots Jin there. Seeing Jin awake catches him off guard. He showed up early, hoping to get some practice in before the tournament started. Bale looked uncomfortable and tried to explain that he wasn't feeling great, almost as if he was searching for an excuse. Jin didn't buy the excuse at all. He made it clear he wanted the guy to come with him right then and there, no waiting around. He throws in a sarcastic comment about Ba's muscles, saying a guy built like that should actually help out when it counts. Ba doesn't really want to, but he gives in anyway. He motions for him to pick up the pace, saying he's only warming up, then heads out, while Bao just stands there, totally bummed out. Back at the tournament arena, the referee let everyone know the semi-final match was about to begin. The crowd started getting louder, people shifting in their seats and pulling out their phones. The energy in the place felt different now, like everyone knew something big was about to go down. Juan once told about her next challenge. Her opponent was going to be a guy known for using the Phantom Sword. Let her know that fighting this style wouldn't be easy. The Phantom Sword moves were tricky and could change up at any moment, making it tough to guess what would come next. Still, pointed out that if messed up even a little, the style left him wide open. Listened, trying to get her head around the risks and what it would take to win. She wanted his advice and looked to him for answers, but he could only remind her to stay sharp and not let anyone trick her. He admits she isn't wrong, but he knows she always finds an easier way out. He tells her to do something, but it's not clear exactly what. He promises that if she just trusts him, she'll win. She nods right away, looking excited. Right now, walks over to Juan. He can hardly believe actually made it to the semifinals. He gives him a nod for pulling this off in just a month, clearly impressed. One of them grinned, acting all sure of himself. He said he'd only take the congratulations after she won the finals tomorrow. Didn't see that coming and wanted to know if he was actually being serious. Stood in the ring, looking right at. He couldn't help but notice she'd made it further than most people expected. Still, he figured this was where things would change. In his mind, whatever luck had brought her here wasn't going to help anymore. He looks at her with a smug grin, pretty much acting like he already knows she's going to lose. Everyone around clearly thinks the same thing, and it shows on their faces. She shoots him a confident smile, pretty sure of herself. She remembers her sect leader told her she'd come out on top, so she's not buying what he's saying. OGM rolled his eyes at how confident she was acting. He thought she was just as wild as her teacher, and honestly, he figured both of them were pretty crazy. The referee signals that the match is on. Doesn't waste a second, she charges straight at her opponent. Her eyes are locked in, and you can tell she's set on winning this one. The semi-final match kicks off with facing off against O, the guy known for using the Phantom Sword, who usually knows a lot about people's skills, could tell that the disciple from the White Sword Sect was something else. Just by watching him, it was obvious this guy played in a different league compared to the others. Goes in with a sneaky move, showing off his skills. He smirks at her, clearly trying to get under her skin, and acts like he's already won. The way he moves makes it obvious he's enjoying the upper hand, basically daring her to just quit right there. She thinks back to what her leader, Juan, told her before. If she ever gets stuck and can't tell if an attack is real or just in her head, she should remember those instructions. She knew she had to protect the middle, keeping her guard up so no one could get through. She steps back, ready to block whatever's coming, but OGM's attack is just too strong. It slices right through her guard and knocks her backwards. He didn't expect her to block the hit, and it clearly caught him off guard. Realizing he hadn't taken her seriously enough, he decided it was time to stop holding back. Focusing his energy, he got ready to go all in for the next attack. He goes for a tougher Phantom Sword move this time, showing off some new skills. They came at her from all sides, not giving her any chance to catch her breath. The story jumps back to when Juan was giving her some tips. He pointed out that people who use the Phantom's sword aren't that great when it comes to fighting up close. Instead, they usually try to keep their opponents at a distance, staying out of reach. He let her know that if she could just get close enough with her weapon, she actually had a shot at winning. Right now, OGM is giving her a hard time, acting like he's already won. But she's not backing down. She stands her ground, letting him know she's just getting started. She blocks out everything fake around her and heads straight for him, sticking to the plan her leader came up with. He keeps launching those sneaky attacks, barely leaving any time for his opponent to react. He rolls his eyes at how obvious her moves are, then lands a solid hit. She manages to avoid most of the hits, but then a strong counter catches her off guard and knocks her back. Bakery Juan stands there, focused and serious, his eyes locked on what's happening. On the other hand, just stares, frozen in place, completely caught off guard by what he sees. She hit the ground hard while stood over her, clearly the winner. She drops to her knees, catching her breath, completely worn out. He looks at her, not showing much emotion. He expected something better, but it's pretty clear this is all she's got to offer. She pushes herself up, shaky but determined, making it clear she's not giving up yet. He looks at her and rolls his eyes, not really taking her seriously. He can't help but think that she's struggling just to stay on her feet, so he doubts she could actually do anything. Out of nowhere, he notices her charging straight at him, looking totally focused. He starts to feel uneasy and thinks the whole thing is kind of silly. She gets ready, totally focused, thinking that this next hit will settle everything. She goes for the basic ultimate move, second form, and ends it with the final cut. The hit lands straight and clean, knocking her opponent back without any hesitation. Juan grinned as pumped her fist in the air, celebrating her win. One of the Sect disciples, who had already lost earlier, suddenly stands back up. He starts making a scene, yelling that he messed up on purpose and only pretended to lose so he could catch everyone off guard with a sneak attack. Some people might call it stubbornness, but the disciple was clearly upset. He couldn't believe his student lost to a girl like her, unless there was some trick involved. The whole thing just didn't sit right with him. Juan kept his tone icy as he questioned the way the White Sword Sect handled respect, especially when a regular disciple started arguing with the leader of another group. The kid from the White Sword Sect looked scared and quickly backed off, trying to make things right. The head of the White Sword Sect steps forward to smooth things over after his students messed up. He apologizes for their behavior and accepts it, letting the situation cool down. The leader didn't look too happy about how decided his disciples lost without asking anyone, but he still admitted that their group lost this round. Win gets announced, and everyone in the crowd starts talking, surprised by what just happened. Most people can't figure out how someone who's only been training for a month managed to beat a guy from the White Sword Sect. The place is filled with people whispering and trying to make sense of it, some looking at like she just pulled off something impossible. She spots Juan and waves at him, clearly pumped about her win. Juan notices and gives her a small nod, kind of proud but keeping it low-key. He teases her a bit, hinting that the one covering dinner tonight since she pulled off the victory. Ba stood in the crowd, eyes locked on up on stage. His hands felt sweaty and his heart thumped faster than normal. Watching up there made him tense, like he was waiting for something big to happen. Later on, pulled Bal aside and gave him a secret job. He wanted Bal to slip something into So's food, a special poison that wouldn't hurt her right away, but would make her slower and weaker for her match the next day. Didn't want to take any chances. He wanted So off her game, no matter what it took. He thinks just losing isn't enough punishment. So he tells the guy to go find Jin, the one known for being rough, and tells him to take things even further, making sure she can't fight back again. Bale shook his head, clearly not okay with what his leader wanted from him. Before he could do anything else, his leader slapped him across the face, hard. He thinks the guy's clueless, believing that if someone isn't naturally skilled, they should at least be smart about things. He slaps him again, saying it's stuff like this that lets the younger guys get ahead of him. Just then, Bakery Juan showed up, looking pretty smug. He pointed out how the leader of the White Sword Sect was always tough on his students, almost like he enjoyed calling it out in front of everyone. The leader and Bal notice him standing there, and neither of them expected to see him. They both freeze for a second, caught off guard by his sudden appearance. One of the guys just flashes a quick, sarcastic smile as he nods at them. CO wasn't happy with. He thought was out of line for getting involved in someone else's business, especially when it came to private stuff like that. Let it show that he didn't appreciate butting in where he didn't belong. He doesn't pay attention to what he's being accused of, and just points out that the leader is coming down too hard on Bale, no matter what's going on. The leader stood his ground, reminding everyone that looking after his own students was his responsibility. He didn't seem too interested in anyone else's opinion, though wasn't about to back off. He made it clear he was there for a reason, and he wasn't going to just walk away. The tension between them hung in the air, with showing he wasn't afraid to get involved. When he brings up the topic, one of the guys steps forward, and says he has to give bail to the Heavenly Bliss sect. Bal couldn't believe what he just heard. He looked around, almost hoping someone else was being called on, but nope, it was definitely him. He just stood there, not sure how to react, still trying to process what was going on. One of the guys grins and points out that, from what he can tell, the way he does things would probably work way better for Bale than whatever the White Sword sects are doing. His temper flares up. He thinks Bal has gotten too friendly with, and that's the real reason Bal didn't follow his earlier orders to poison so. Bal, caught off guard, scrambles to explain himself. The leader gives a sneaky smile and lets everyone know he's down for his plan. He thought it'd be kind of lame to let go of someone he cared about without trying, so he came up with a quick bet to keep things interesting. At the same time, shivers a little, glancing around and realizing her leader isn't anywhere to be seen. She can't help but wonder what's going on or where they disappeared to. Somewhere else, her leader is thinking about, and how she's got way too much potential to stay stuck in a place like this. Bale listened as the idea was thrown out. Whichever sect wins the tournament gets to take a disciple from the losing side. As soon as he heard it, a cold chill ran through him, and his stomach dropped. The thought of someone getting taken away like that just didn't sit right with him. He only made the offer because he thought it would be a waste to lose Bale. Juan didn't hesitate. He agreed right away. Bal realized things were getting out of hand. He looked over at Juan and tried to get him to stop, thinking the joke had already gone way past what was funny. Didn't bother paying attention to him. He just said he was interested in seeing how things would turn out and walked away. In his mind, he was already thinking that's only student wouldn't be around much longer. Once the others head out, steps in front of Ball, who's clearly caught off guard. Wants to know what's going through Ball's mind, especially about why he might have been picked. He lets him know that he never says things he doesn't mean, and then gives him some time to really think it over. Bal's mind started racing. He couldn't help but wonder if Lady had already found out about the bet. The thought made his stomach drop, and he felt uneasy, not sure what would happen next. Juan kept chatting with him, smiling as he explained that would probably like having a younger disciple around. Said it'd be a waste for someone with his skills to stay stuck in the White Sword sect. Then, without losing his upbeat mood, he pointed out that all that was left was to win the bet. He looked over at, he didn't want her to feel pressured, but he needed to know if she thought she could win the tournament. She nods, ready to give it her all, but also points out that he was the one who said her chances were pretty much even. He agrees, but he also has this quiet confidence in her, like he really believes she can pull it off. He looks at her with a steady grin, calm and sure of himself. The way he stands, you can tell he trusts her to handle whatever comes next. Felt her resolve get even stronger. She nodded, fired up, ready to take on the challenge and win. Right then, the system popped up, letting her know that her sense of responsibility had finally kicked in. While all this was going on, the leader of the White Sword sect kept an eye on things from a distance. He noticed his disciple, Jin, getting a bit too relaxed and reminded him to stay sharp. Knew how easy it was to mess up if you let your guard down, especially in their world. He wanted Jin to remember that things could go sideways fast, so he stayed watchful, making sure his disciple didn't get overconfident. Jin listens as the guy makes it clear. Winning is the only option, and messing up isn't allowed anymore. Jin nods, understanding exactly what's expected of him. Ball walks up and gives him a heads up, reminding him to watch out. Jin rolled his eyes, acting like he was way more careful than ever was. He couldn't help but poke fun at Ball, not holding back when it came to making jokes about how Ball actually believed that random shot was anything worth relying on. He stands there, his mind set on what he has to do. He's decided he's going to put an end to all that fake hope no matter what. In the last arena, the ref steps up and signals for So and Jin to get ready. Both guys move forward, the crowd watching closely as they take their positions. Jin looks over at, noticing she's made it all the way to the finals. He makes it clear that things are about to change, hinting that her good luck isn't going to last any longer. She stays chill and lets him know they'll have to settle things with a fight. The duel kicks off, and Jing figures, being new to this, will probably keep his distance and wait for the right moment to make a move. He doesn't really expect it, but she suddenly runs straight at him, catching him off guard. He barely manages to block her strong hit, a surprised sound slipping out as he braces himself. He freezes for a second, trying to figure out how her power turned out to be way more intense than he expected. She thinks back to what Juan told her earlier, that her opponent probably thinks she's weak and doesn't have much energy left. He points out to her that her body naturally pulls in a ton of energy, way more than most people. Even after hearing this, she keeps going after Jin, hitting him with attack after attack. She knows this is her only shot. She suddenly leaps way higher than Jin expected. He watches, caught off guard by how easily she gets that much air. He gets ready to dodge as she comes at him. He steps forward and lands a solid punch on her, putting all his strength behind it. She hits the ground with a thud, got to her feet, and Jin realized that she was way tougher than he thought. He stands up and goes straight in for another attack. In his mind, he's sure she's just a rookie, not worth worrying about. She blocks his attack just in time, but the hit is so strong that she stumbles back, struggling to keep her balance. She sizes up her opponent and realizes this one's definitely tougher than anyone she's gone up against before. He decides he's going to finish this fast. 10 seconds, that's all he's giving himself. She tries to fight back, not wanting to go down so easily. She kept fighting, and then the system popped up, letting everyone know her sense of responsibility just kicked in. The message showed that both the hard work and tough times traits were locked in. Since responsibility was part of the deal, those traits were going to be combined. Because of the merger, something new appears: clear mirror, still water. It's a trait nobody's seen before, standing out from everything else. The system lets him know this trait really helps him see things more clearly and make better decisions when things get tough. With her new ability, she dodges Jin's surprise attack just in time. But while moving out of the way, her weapon slips from her grip and hits the ground. She gets nervous in this dangerous situation. The way he gives off such a threatening vibe makes her scared. Jin can see how tough she is, but he's not done yet. He starts getting ready for another attack, one that looks even more intense than before. There's this moment where it's clear he wants to see if she can really handle what's coming next. She braces herself, getting ready for what's coming next. He charges forward, determined to end the fight. He's sure this is his last move, putting everything he has into it. Juan spots her and can't help but feel concerned. He calls out, hoping she's okay. She thinks back to what her leader said, how he trusts her. That memory gives her a bit more confidence. Out of nowhere, the two things slam into each other hard. Juan can't stop thinking about what might happen next, his mind racing with worry. On the other hand, just stands there, frozen, eyes wide as if he can't believe what he's seeing. The leader spots the move and instantly knows what it is. He's seen this technique before and starts thinking to himself if it could actually be the cold yin art. Goes for the basic ultimate strike, pulling out the third form with sharp focus. An icy energy wraps around him, making the air feel colder as he lines up his move. Right after she finishes the attack, her hand goes numb. She drops to the ground and Juan freezes, wide-eyed and unsure what to do. He bolts toward the ring, clearly worried about her. But the referee steps in and blocks his way, making sure he remembers the rules. He can't just jump in while the fight's still on. One of the guys starts shouting at him, totally confused about what he's even saying. He points over at the field, making it clear the duel's already over. Jin is lying on the ground, completely knocked out. He isn't moving at all, and anyone looking at him can tell he's out cold. The referee looked unsure as he announced So from the Heavenly Bliss Sect as the winner. Sees Juan and can't help but smile, looking genuinely happy to see him. Stood there, his face tight with anger. Watching the scene unfold, he couldn't believe what had done. In his mind, the whole sect looked ridiculous now, and he blamed for making them look weak in front of everyone. In the ring, the girl looked completely worn out. Someone checked if she could still get up. She gave him a quick smile, showing she remembered what she said she'd do. One of the guys grins as claps his hands, clearly pumped and happy for her after a solid match. He keeps clapping for her, showing he's proud, then gestures for her to thank the crowd too, wanting her to share the moment with everyone watching. The referee steps forward and gets ready to announce the winner. All eyes are on him as he reveals that So from the Heavenly Bliss Sect has come out on top in the White Sword tournament. Juan steps up in front of everyone. As the leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect, he gets ready to talk, catching everyone's attention. The crowd waits, curious to hear what he has to say. He lets everyone know that the Heavenly Sword Sect will have its official founding ceremony in a month. He wants everyone there and hopes they'll all show up. The crowd gets restless right away after his announcement. Everyone starts whispering and looking around, confused about how the White Sword Sect could lose to a brand new group that hasn't even started officially. People can't believe it, and some are already pulling out their phones, trying to check if the news is real. The head of the White Sword Sect totally loses his cool. He starts yelling at Juan, furious that seemed to turn the tournament into his own personal stage just to talk about his new sect's big opening. The whole situation gets tense fast, and everyone around can feel how mad he is. He keeps going, saying the guy covered up that his own student used the cold yin skill and had the nerve to show off right in front of him. As he moved into attack, quickly reached out and grabbed his arm. That sudden stop got under his skin, and he turned to, wanting to know what was going on. He tries to get him to chill out. His anger keeps building up. He's convinced that has already teamed up with the Heavenly Sword Sect, so he gets ready to go after him. He says traitors should be executed right away, and is stunned. The whole idea hits hard, leaving him anxious and unsure what's going to happen next. He goes in for a strong attack, aiming straight at him. Out of nowhere, steps up and blocks it, stopping the hit cold. He looks at him with a straight face, not showing any emotion, and wants to know what's going on. He lets everyone know that Pal has officially joined the Heavenly Sword Sect. At the same time, he throws out a warning, making it clear that Pal shouldn't get pushed around anymore. His eyes lit up as he made it clear. If he didn't like how the tournament turned out, he was ready to step in and fight for Pal himself. He tightens his grip on his own hand, holding on with all his strength. He holds back his anger, shoves the other guy aside, and tells him to just do whatever he wants. As he walked away, he couldn't hide how much he hated seeing Pal. He glared back, making it clear he wanted nothing more than for Pal to disappear. He tightens his fist, the anger burning in him. What did still stings, and he knows he won't let himself forget how it felt. As they walked along, Juan turned to Pal and brought up the topic of regrets. Pal brushed it off, but deep down, he wasn't so sure about starting over. The thought of having no real talent weighed on him, and he couldn't help but wonder if he'd ever really make it work. He rests his hand on the guy's shoulder, letting him know he's already got what it takes as a martial artist. He's determined to show him, no questions asked. He starts to get emotional, and his eyes fill with tears as he remembers all the harsh things his old master used to say about him, calling him worthless and saying he was only good for his looks. He felt a new sense of drive as he looked up, ready to put in real effort from this point forward. Just then, the system let him know he was now the second disciple of the Heavenly Sword Sect. The tournament finally wrapped up and couldn't help but get annoyed. Had dropped some big news right at the end, and suddenly, everyone was paying attention to him instead of who was actually the real winner. It just didn't seem fair to had put in all that effort, but this announcement was all anyone could talk about. 2 weeks later, over at the Sect's headquarters, Pal is putting in serious work. He's holding a horse stance, focused and determined, not slacking off for a second. He's out of breath and wipes sweat from his forehead, looking over at his master for some kind of next step. While he's catching his breath, runs past, messing around and laughing, not looking tired at all. She straightened up, acting like the responsible senior she was supposed to be. She reminded him that their leader was always going on about how important the basics were, making sure he remembered what really mattered. She'd only been training for 2 months, but she told him to stay patient and keep working hard if he wanted to get to her level. He'd actually been at it for 8 years, so her advice caught him off guard. He let out an awkward laugh and just nodded along, not really sure what else to do. He smiled, acting like he still had plenty of confidence in his own strength. Seeing that, she just pointed out that if he was really that sure of himself, he could go get the water on his own. Juan watched his new student Pal. The system popped up his profile, 21 years old, the second disciple. It pointed out that Pal had really good bones for training and was a natural when it came to picking up new skills. He doesn't have much Chai energy, so it takes him a long time to build up his strength. But if he really focuses and puts his mind to it, he can make up for that weakness. Some of his traits showed up too, even though he couldn't really use them right now. Stuff like being shy, working hard, and keeping himself in check. Seeing this, he realized it lined up with what he'd already guessed. As he watched the game between Wu and the other guy, he started to notice what made him stand out. It wasn't just about physical skill. He could see how the guy had a good grasp of different moves and always seemed to picture what he wanted to do before actually doing it. Plus, he had the stamina to keep going without slowing down. That combination made him tough to beat. He remembers his new disciples, First and now Pal. It makes him smile. He's pretty proud of how good he is at spotting talent. Checked in on him, wanting to know how the plans for the big founding ceremony were shaping up. One let him know everything was going well, and it really helped having around to keep things on track. Keeps it low-key, just mentioning he's an investor. He also brings up how the tournament promo really paid off. Tons of people have messaged, saying they're coming to the founding ceremony. Hearing this, the other guy can't help but be caught off guard. But then he mentions that one of the letters is actually an order from the Alliance. Hearing that, the guy freezes for a second, caught off guard. He unrolls the scroll carefully, curious about what's inside. He soon finds out that the Alliance wants them to go through a plagiarism check about the family's main skill. The news leaves him pretty confused, and he can't figure out why they're being questioned about something that's always been a part of the family. Couldn't believe it. He was frustrated, thinking about how unfair it was for them to ask for this out of nowhere, especially after all this time. The family had put the skill out there 15 years ago, and now, suddenly, these people wanted something? It just didn't make sense to him. He smirked a little, thinking how it was just like his family to go after weak spots. It bugged him, since everything had been going fine up until now. He tells himself that the martial arts he uses are all from his own hard work and experience over the past 15 years. He's sure that nothing he does comes from his family's style, not even the smallest piece. He figures out that if the Alliance examiner backs up his family, there's pretty much no way he can dodge the plagiarism charge. Suddenly gets hit with the thought that if they mess up the review, they won't be able to send out their artwork. That means they'll have to pay back a ton of money, and just thinking about it makes his stomach drop. He can't help but freak out, worried about losing all that cash. He points out that if they ever get another chance to take the test, it's going to be way tougher next time. Before he can say anything else, Pal walks in and asks for the sect leader. Stands up and says it's time for him to go. He heads out, leaving Juan and Pal behind. behind in the room. He figures the founding ceremony is probably where they'll make their move. To get ready, he wants everyone to look at the main skills from all the well-known sects and families, just to be sure there are any similarities that could get them in trouble for copying. He needed to figure out how to get these core skills fast, but he didn't have a clue where to start. While he was trying to sort things out, his two disciples and pal looked at him, both clearly confused about what was going on. Storms into the room, looking really annoyed. He's yelling for the sect leader, trying to figure out what's going on. Someone let him know that some guests had just shown up, and that caught him off guard. At the entrance, Ha looked around, thinking it was hard to believe that the old man actually bought this place. Her friend Nam Wu, who was way taller and looked tough, kept an eye on her. He didn't want her messing with anything before he had a chance to check things out for himself. When she showed up, he looked at them and wanted to know who they were. Wu shows up and recognizes him right away, using his old title from back in the Blue Sky Unit. The two new faces are introduced. Wu, who's from the family and part of the Blue Sky Unit, and Ha, who's actually leading the unit now. Wu looks at him and asks if he's the one in charge of the Heavenly Sword sect these days. Wan suddenly bursts out laughing, just stands there confused, not really sure what's so funny. He thinks their arrival might change how things are going. He starts thinking about his family back home. Somewhere else sat with his aide thinking things through. He knew if the powerful family was behind this request, the Alliance would probably take their side. Started to wonder if it was smarter for them to back out now. His aide tells him not to hold back. This trial is way tougher than the last one with the White Sword sect. It's not something simple he can just brush off. Waved over his right-hand guy and told him to get a letter ready and send it out. He points out that if everyone's already worried about the Alliance and his family getting involved, maybe it's time to make things more interesting. He grins, already thinking about how he might get the demonic union involved too. At the family headquarters, was in the outer hall, going about his usual business. Someone nearby let him know that what he was doing didn't really make sense and probably wasn't worth the effort. It turns out he's actually talking to Dad, who runs the family. He doesn't really get why they're asking for a plagiarism review on a key skill from a sect that hasn't even started up yet. He also brings up that he already told Dad not to mess with him. He knew the family head had already given him a heads up. Still, he figured out that picking a fight wasn't his call. It was all on the family head. The talk between and kept going, was sizing up kids in his mind. He saw that the oldest son, Wan really wasn't into martial arts at all. Wan didn't have much strength and didn't seem to have any special skills either. Then there was the daughter. She was actually pretty skilled, but she tended to act before thinking things through. Still, couldn't ignore the fact that it was a girl, which made things complicated for what he was thinking. Just shrugged, totally chill about the whole thing. He knew there was nothing stopping a girl from taking over the family. In their family, no one ever said it had to be a guy, so he didn't see any reason to make a big deal out of it. His frustration started to show. He couldn't understand why the boy was allowed to go off on his own. It bothered him, like maybe the family didn't care enough to keep around. The whole situation just didn't sit right with. He thinks back to when the kid was younger, always standing out from the rest. The kid was smart, talented, and kept his cool no matter what. Honestly, nobody would have been surprised if he ended up being the one in charge someday. The father nods, not making a big deal out of it. Doesn't back down. He's sure that the only way forward is to bring him back and prove that this is where he belongs. He gets a reminder that his family is where he truly belongs. The Council of Elders and the Outer Hall want him to remember that, and they're making sure he doesn't forget it. Bakery nodded, thinking he'd done what he needed to as a dad. He figured tough times were just part of growing up, and his son needed to figure out how to look after the sect on his own now. He tells to remind the guy that no matter where he ends up, he's still under the watch of the family. He lowered his head, making a silent promise to himself that he'd find a way to bring home. The story jumps ahead to the day when everyone's getting ready for the big opening ceremony at Heavenly Bliss Sect. Stood next to Yi, who was the deputy commander for 3 divisions in the Alliance. Tried to calm you down, letting him know that, up to now, no sect had ever made it through a core skill plagiarism check. Doesn't seem bothered by any of it. He just looks confident, like he already knows how things will turn out. In his mind, bringing his nephew back isn't even a question. It's just something he's going to do, no matter what. While they walked, you couldn't figure out why he was so caught up with Sheng. He wondered if maybe he just saw Sheng as family, even though Sheng was clearly talented. Sheng, on the other hand, made it clear with his attitude that he was more than just some cousin or distant relative. He thought about how things could have gone if he'd stuck around and trained with his family. If he'd followed their path, he was sure he would ended up as the best swordsman of his generation. He thinks the boy just left the family behind, even though they really need him right now. He scans the crowd at the opening ceremony, curious about how Bakery will react now that his family has reached out. In the courtyard where the ceremony was happening, his voice rang out as he told someone to open the gates. His personal system notices his heart is beating faster and suggests he take a deep breath. He gets annoyed, tells it off in his head, and then jumps straight off the roof. He slammed down hard right in the center of the courtyard, calling out for the sky to open up. Everyone in the crowd, even Yi, just freezes when this new person suddenly shows up. Nobody saw it coming, so for a second the whole place goes quiet. People glance at each other, not sure what's about to happen next. He stands up straight, holding his banner, and takes a moment to appreciate everyone who showed up. Juan steps forward and introduces himself as the leader of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. He looks serious, letting everyone know he has a lot on his mind, but he doesn't dive into everything just yet. It's clear he's got something important to share, but he holds back for the moment. Before they could open the sect, there was still something important that needed to get sorted out. He figured it was best to clear things up for everyone who hadn't heard what was going on yet. He suddenly raised his voice, yelling so loud that everyone in the crowd turned to look. Everyone heard him call out his claim, saying that the Heavenly Bliss Sect had stolen the martial arts style from the family. The crowd wasn't ready for that announcement. As soon as it came out, everyone started buzzing, looking around at each other, totally confused. Some people pulled out their phones, probably thinking about posting what just happened. Nobody could figure out why he'd drop news like that at his own opening ceremony, and the whole place felt tense and restless. Everyone at the party, even his own friends, start thinking he might actually be confessing to copying someone else's work. One of the guys in the crowd starts laughing. Things turned out way more interesting than he thought they would. He told that the leader of the Heavenly Bliss Sect looked like he had given up, so things should be easier now, but didn't seem convinced. He kept his eyes locked on Yi, clearly thinking something else was going on. He looks over at his nephew, trying to figure out what's going on in the kid's head. Juan kept going with his big announcement. He let everyone know that he was aware a review committee from the Alliance was in the crowd. Then, he called them out and asked them to come forward. Walked up with Pale Moon's sword and Yi, the deputy military commander of the Alliance. His uncle noticed him and gave a nod, looking like he hadn't seen in ages. He looked at him, trying to figure out what he was up to. The guy just shrugged, acting like whatever he wanted wasn't a big deal. He lets everyone know that he's going to do the plagiarism check right here, out in the open where everyone can see. His uncle can't believe what's happening. He's clearly upset, thinking that reviews like this are supposed to stay private until everything's official. He steps in, making it clear that the Alliance is supposed to help sort things out, not turn the whole thing into an investigation against his sect. Thinks about how he doesn't want to look like a jerk in front of the girls. He figures he should step up and go along with it, just to keep things cool. Juan looked over, waiting to make sure it was okay to start. He gave him a nod, letting him know it was fine to go ahead. He gets ready to show off one of his sect's main moves, the Transcendent Strike. He moves through the first form, focusing on each step, heaven, earth, and man. Everyone in the crowd starts clapping and shouting, clearly impressed by how good he is at fighting. Looks over at the skill, thinking about what he's heard online. People saying it's basically from the family's techniques. One of the others nods, admitting that the two really do seem alike, since they both use this idea of connecting heaven, earth, and man. His uncle starts sharing his thoughts, sounding pretty sure about it, but he cuts him off and points out that, at the same time, people see it as copying the family's techniques. He kept going, saying that every single one of his sect's 23 main skills had been checked and turned out to be from other groups. His heart started racing. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. His mind spun as he tried to process the situation. Instinct kicked in and he quickly tried to defend himself, desperate to prove that what they were saying wasn't true. He stays cool and just wants to know what part isn't true. Gets caught off guard and starts to stumble, pointing out that no one from the other groups is around to back up what's being said. Wu, also known as, lifted his hand to let everyone know he was there. Everyone in the crowd starts staring as he moves forward, realizing he's one of the family. People start whispering to each other, surprised to see someone like him show up. Ha lifted her hand, letting everyone know she was there for the sect too. The crowd spotted her right away. They all knew who she was. You spot some familiar faces from the Great Blue Sky Unit, the group he used to be in charge of. He can't help but wonder what they're doing here. Nam Wu lets him know that the team was working close by, and once they heard about their old captain's big day, they decided to drop in for the opening ceremony. He checks out the parts talked about and sees that they really do look alike. He explained how his family's main skill isn't just about fighting or showing off. It's built on the balance between the sky, the earth, and people, all working together. Let everyone know that the sect agreed with them. To prove it, he showed up with a box packed with letters, making it clear they were all on the same page. She lets them know that the letters, along with what they already said, are proof of plagiarism and doubts coming in from other groups. She smiled to herself, curious if the family's main skill was about to get caught up in plagiarism drama with with all these other groups. Couldn't believe what he was hearing. He felt annoyed and a bit frustrated, his mind racing as he tried to figure out why someone would accuse him of something he hadn't done. His face showed just how irritated he was, and he looked around, hoping someone would realize he was innocent. Wu looked at them like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He thought their reasoning didn't make any sense. Just because the ideas about heaven, earth, and man happen to line up, that doesn't mean someone else. In his mind, it sounded exactly like what the family was saying, and he wasn't buying it. He suddenly gets what's going on. The review committee is actually blaming him for something he didn't do, and the thought hits him hard. His stomach drops, and he can't believe this is really happening. Li's face turned red as anger bubbled up inside him. Across from him, Bakery 1 calmly handed over a note. The paper had writing on it, showing proof that the skills did overlap, and it was even signed by Mo Young, the captain of the Blue Sky Unit. His uncle's anger gets stronger, and he starts shaking. He gets mad and pretty much insults him. Looked at him, clearly surprised at how he pulled off checking with 23 different sects. The whole thing sounded kind of wild, like it would take forever. She couldn't help but give him a look, sort of teasing, like she was imagining him actually mailing out his secrets to a bunch of people just to prove a point. Bakery 1 stood his ground, making it clear he was done talking. Now it was up to the Pale Moon's sword, his uncle, to respond. The ball was in his uncle's court, and everyone could feel the tension in the air as they waited to see what would happen next. He thinks about his uncle's situation and sees just how stuck he really is. If his uncle confesses to copying someone else's work, their family's main technique could get dragged into a huge mess with 23 other groups. He can't help but wonder if his uncle will actually go through with it, knowing what's at stake. Meanwhile, is so angry that his hands are shaking, staring at him like he can't believe this is all he's got. He loses his temper and charges ahead, gripping his sword tight, ready to go after him. Nam, Wu, and Ha both call out for their master, their voices loud and urgent as they try to get his attention. He stands in front, blocking their path so they can't get any closer. He steps in, raising his arms just in time to stop his uncle's swing. He stands his ground, making it clear with his actions that whatever's happening is between him and his uncle, and nobody else needs to get involved. He thinks the guy hasn't let go of the past and still isn't cool with the family. He yells back, saying his uncle's the one who can't let things go. He keeps pushing, asking if this is all about their family not getting back at the people who hurt his mom. He says he gets it if the others think their family is weak for not being able to protect her, but he doesn't stop there. If he really wants to break up the family for that reason, then that's exactly what he's going to do. He fights back, hitting his uncle with moves that are stronger and faster than before. His uncle can't keep up and starts to lose ground. He staggers backward from the hit, blood spilling from his mouth as he tries to catch his breath. He stands over him, making it clear he's not trying to hide where he comes from. He knows he used to hold a grudge against his uncle, but most of that is gone now. Still, some frustration slips out when he asks why his uncle hasn't come back yet. He knows that being the sect leader means he has to get stronger by himself. He's not the same guy who once ran from his main family. Things have changed, and he's changed too. He looks at him and wants to know how long he thinks he can actually hold out. There's a warning in his eyes, kind of like he's saying that someone like him, with hardly any influence, won't stand a chance if the main family decides to turn up the heat. He lets everyone know he's always ready if someone wants to challenge him, just like he is right now. He remembers being a kid, out in the yard with his uncle, practicing moves and trying to keep up. Back then, he always called him uncle, looking up to him and hoping to get even half as good. Those moments stick in his mind, simple and real. He thinks back to the moment when he was pumped up, yelling out that he managed to stop one of the strikes. His uncle just laughs and calls him by his nickname, telling him to get ready because another hit is coming. Back in the present, he looked down at his uncle who was sprawled out on the ground. As the leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect, he knew his own skills and techniques were legit, not from anyone else. He told his nephew from the family to hang on just a bit longer. He promised that someday he'd finally explain everything. His uncle manages a weak smile, like he's trying to hide how tired he really is. He stands up ready to set things straight. Everyone's attention is on him as he reveals who he really is, the outer head of the family and also the younger brother of the family's current leader. Then he tells them his name is. The room gets quiet, and everyone starts to realize how important this moment is. In front of everyone, he stands tall and lets them know the Heavenly Bliss sect didn't copy the family's martial arts. The crowd watches, waiting to see what happens next. The crowd goes wild, clapping and shouting, everyone caught up in the excitement. In the crowd, there was a masked guy watching everything unfold. He had come ready to step in if things got messy, but handled it on his own. As he watched, the masked man couldn't help but be impressed, quietly giving some credit for picking the right person for the job. While that was happening, who trained under the master of the Yellow Dragon Room, showed up. He looked annoyed with the masked guy, telling him off for making too much noise. The aide wasn't happy about being dragged all this way and muttered under his breath, clearly not thrilled about the situation. He looks up at the palace, totally blown away. It's so impressive that he can't help but think it might be some kind of legendary weapon or rare artifact, something you'd only hear about in stories or see in games. Sato, the guy known for leading the demonic union, showed up with his face hidden behind a mask. He gave a small smile as he looked at Juan, realizing that was actually way more interesting than he first expected. He lets the others know he's heading out, then quietly slips away, blending into the shadows until he's out of sight. Stands there watching as he heads out. He doesn't move, just keeps his eyes on the door until it closes. There's a weird quiet in the room now, like something's missing. Lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, still thinking about everything that just happened. He remembers that this person was actually her first business partner. Later on, back at the Heavenly Bliss Sect headquarters, sits there, staring off into space. Everything that's been happening just seems unreal to her, and she can't wrap her head around it. She looks like she's trying to process it all, but it's not easy. 3 days had gone by since the big founding ceremony. Early in the morning, was out in the courtyard, broom in hand, cleaning up and looking a bit annoyed. He couldn't help but notice that nobody had shown up to join the sect yet. The place was still just as empty as it was on day one, and he was starting to get frustrated about it. Juan struggles to keep cool, but his hand tightens around his writing brush so hard it nearly snaps. Notices and steps in to warn him. Meanwhile, the system picks up on his heart rate bouncing all over the place. He thinks about how to find new students and realizes it's not as easy as just asking people. To get anyone interested, he'd need to be really well known or spend a lot of time helping out around town so folks would actually trust him. He thinks about asking Pal to go find customers, but then changes his mind. Instead, he gives a paper and tells her to deliver it to the trading company. When she gets curious about what's inside, he just explains that it's a way to bring in new students. The document is actually asking for some kind of partnership with the Alliance's Training Institute. The story moves over to the office of the Alliance's second deputy commander. He's at his desk when his aide walks in and tells him what's going on. The trainees over at the Hall of Strength have just turned in a notice saying they won't be training. The commander wanted to know what was going on, so the aide told him that the graduation martial arts tournament was coming up soon. The trainees were getting frustrated, thinking the training wasn't fair. He lets them know how the Alliance sorts new trainees. Guys who are smaller or more independent get sent to the Hall of Strength. The bigger, well-known trainees from famous families end up in the Hall of Virtue, which has a higher status. The commander looked around and thought about how the Hall of Strength was known for keeping things fair in a fight. Everyone who came here expected an even match, nothing sneaky or one-sided. The aide explains that the Hall of Virtue's new group is really strong this year. The Hall of Strength, on the other hand, has been losing the tournament 3 years in a row. After all those losses, everyone's spirits are pretty low. He mentions that they're working on convincing the master from the Hall of Strength, but it looks like the guy is actually backing the people who said no, just not openly. Figures out that the master, after losing 3 years in a row, just wants to keep his pride. Right then, a carrier pigeon swoops in, landing nearby with a message tied to its leg. Hui read the message and didn't waste any time. He told his aide to get all the trainees from the Hall of Strength together right away. He lets everyone know that training isn't getting pushed back. It's happening just like they planned. Up in the mountains near County, the trainees push themselves through another tough workout. One of the guys jolts awake. Wu, still just a trainee, lay in bed catching his breath. He thinks back on his time as a trainee in the Hall of Strength, wondering if he'll ever stop embarrassing himself. He woke up late at night and saw his coworker busy writing. Looking over, he reminded that it wasn't his turn yet and said he should grow up a little before stepping in. Lay awake, staring at the ceiling, restless. He glanced over, trying to figure out if anything felt off. Something about the night didn't sit right with him, and he quietly wondered if the other guy noticed anything strange too. He felt bad and admitted that everyone was stuck in this training because of him. He owned up to being the guy who pushed everyone to skip training. He figured the Alliance saw that as a challenge and decided to get back at them by sending the group off to some random sect, Bakery One Sect, a place none of them really knew. His coworker didn't really care about the details. He just shrugged it off and figured that if they didn't trust the sect, they could just push the leader a bit. Eventually, the leader would have to start taking what they said seriously. He noticed it was time for the guards to switch, so he let the guy know and told him to get some rest. Out of nowhere, they shot up, instantly on edge. Chuck's eyes darted around the room, searching for whoever or whatever just made that noise. His whole body tensed, ready for anything. Juan showed up in front of everyone, making it clear he was the guy in charge of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. He tells everyone it's time to start the sect's entrance test. He points out that the rule is easy to get. He lets them know that the only thing they need to do is have at least one person make it through the front entrance of his sect. When he hears the news, he quickly calls over the other guys from the Hall of Strength. He tells everyone they need to get ready to fight, and the whole group starts moving, grabbing their gear and preparing for whatever's coming next. One guy charges at him fast, landing a quick solid hit that drops Chuck before he can react. Chuck just lies there for a second, trying to process what just happened, completely caught off guard. Chuck shouts out as soon as his friend hits the ground. Bakery One isn't making it easy for them. He adds a new rule to the test. They have to get away from him without getting caught. Now it's not just about escaping, it's about outsmarting him too. Over near Mountain Hubei, a few people stood together, passing along updates about the guys training at the Hall of Strength. Word was spreading fast, and everyone wanted to know what was really going on with those trainees. This season, the group found out they'd be training somewhere totally new. It wasn't a place anyone recognized, just some random sect that hadn't really popped up on anyone's radar before. The young guy looked pretty uninterested. He thought the whole thing was pointless and didn't really see the point of getting involved. In his mind, the Alliance was just trying to keep things balanced, but he couldn't care less about what they were up to. The young woman wasn't interested in the suggestion. She just shrugged it off, not caring who the instructors were. Deep down, she figured none of it would make a difference anyway. She was sure she'd come out on top in the tournament, no matter what. Suddenly, a memory hits her. She sees herself as a little kid, reaching out to her brother, wondering where he's heading off to. The panel shows the little girl with tears streaming down her face, reaching out for him as he walks away. Juan glances back, but he keeps moving, leaving her behind. The sadness in her eyes is clear, and it's obvious she doesn't want him to go. The whole moment feels heavy, like something important is slipping away. Now, back in the present, everyone gets to meet San, who's actually Juan's little sister. She's got her mind set on one thing. She isn't planning to give up on anything until she figures out why her brother walked away from their family. Back at the training ground, one suddenly goes after the trainees. Everyone is caught off guard as one moves fast, not holding back. The guys scramble to react, some trying to dodge while others freeze for a moment, unsure what's happening. The whole mood shifts, and now everyone's on edge, realizing this isn't just a normal training session anymore. He watches their fight and thinks they're actually pretty good. Chuck sees his friend go down and quickly moves over to check on him. He looks worried, hoping his buddy isn't hurt too badly. He steps up to the sect leader, trying to figure out why someone in charge would go after his own group. The whole situation feels off, and he can't help but wonder what's really going on. One of the guys grins and just shrugs, letting everyone know this is how he does things. He likes to figure everyone out first, wanting to get what makes each person tick before actually starting any lessons. Chuck brings up the test rule about only one person being able to win, and starts thinking about what could go wrong if they don't make it. As he kept fighting, he pointed out that if these guys couldn't even handle a basic test like this, there was really no reason to let them compete in the martial arts tournament. He lets everyone know that if someone loses, they're getting tied up and stashed in the storeroom until every match is finished. He thinks about how rough it is for any fighter to lose without even getting to throw a punch. For him, it's about as embarrassing as it gets. Chuck suddenly calls out, trying to get the guy to stop. While the fight kept going, showed up out of nowhere and stopped his move just in time. Chuck, who's still just a trainee, flashes a confident smile. He steps up and tries to figure out if beating this guy right now would actually count as passing the entrance test. Juan steps up and takes on the challenge, signaling for the others to come at him. Both of them went in at the same time, working together. He noticed how smart that move was and thought they'd made the right call. The scene shows a brutal fight breaking out, with both sides taking hard hits. You can tell it hurts just by looking at their faces. He lets them know their plan would work just fine, if only they weren't up against him. Stands frozen, his eyes wide and his face pale. He looks like he just heard some news he can't believe, stuck in place as his mind tries to catch up. He stands in front of the trainees he just beat, looking way bigger than any of them. He looks at them kind of amused, thinking about how fired up they were at the start. Now, after something small goes wrong, they seem thrown off their game. It's almost like he's questioning if they were ever really ready for this. Still just a trainee, pushes himself up and goes in for another attack. Juan sees this and gives a nod of approval, thinking it's good to see not giving up. He thinks back on his attack, realizing that even though he's fired up, his moves are coming off kind of stiff. Comes up fast from behind, hoping to catch him off guard with a quick attack. He doesn't waste a second, kicking his leg out toward her with quick, steady aim. He pulls back at the last second, his blade coming to a sudden halt right before it touches her neck. He notices how fast sizes things up, like someone who's actually been in real fights before. He blocks the attacks, noticing how everyone's on edge, probably freaking out inside. He lands a solid hit on Chuck, enough to make Chuck yell out. He realizes that even though they have more people on their side, they're not making it count at all. He looks over at and notices the way he's holding back, like he's not sure what to do. It's obvious he's not going all in, and the guy can't help but call him out on it, tossing in a little sarcasm to tease him about whether he's scared of actually landing a hit. He messes around, acting like there's no way someone with skills like that could ever hurt him. But deep down, he knows that Chuck and are the ones who really stand out. He thinks it might be fun to mess with them a bit, so he starts pushing their buttons. He's really let down by the way they acted, watching them fall apart and lose all sense of teamwork just because someone they didn't expect showed up. He points out that it actually looks like defeatism has taken over, and doesn't take that well. He gets pretty mad. Chuck walks up and starts talking to him. He started thinking fast, trying to come up with a plan. Once he had an idea, he pointed to his friend, letting him know to focus on protecting their side. He's pretty sure one is holding back on purpose, keeping things even with the group. With on their side, he thinks the three of them have a real shot at breaking through. He figures out the plan. When spots the right moment, he'll go for it and has to step in to wrap things up. Someone realizes the others are finally stepping up, but thinks they're taking too long. Not wasting any more time, he charges straight at them. Barely has time to react, caught off guard as he tries to defend himself. He steps in fast and launches a strong kick right at him. The hit lands hard, and the guy goes flying backward across the ground. While he's distracted, the others don't waste any time. They move in fast, coming at him from both sides. He's left standing there in the middle, noticing their surprise as they realize what's happening. He sees the trainees moving together, going after him as a team. Chuck and charged in side by side, both going for the same target. He blocks their attacks without breaking a sweat, knocking them back with a quick roundhouse kick. They hit the ground hard, groaning as they try to recover. They hit the ground hard, landing in a way that left them stunned and scrambling to catch their breath. His face tightens as frustration runs through him. It hits him that the real problem with fighting a master is getting too comfortable, thinking the master won't actually go all out. That careless mindset just might cost them everything. He grabs him to prove his point, thinking it's kind of clueless for anyone to believe he'd hold back. He shoved the guy down hard, clearly annoyed. It was obvious he thought the group would at least show some skill, but now he just looked let down by what he saw. He pops his knuckles. He says it's done like there's no turning back. He doesn't look happy about it, but he sticks to what he said before. A promise is a promise, so now they're stuck, just like he said they would be. Out of nowhere, Xian Wu rushed at Wan, red energy swirling around him. He launched his move, catching totally off guard. He blocks the attack and realizes the fighting style looks familiar, which catches him off guard. He spots the move right away, and knows it comes from the unorthodox side, the kind of thing Great Serpent Sword so is known for. Stands there catching his breath, thinking about how close he came to the edge during that training. The guy tells the other person to stop holding back and go all out, wanting to see just how strong he really is. He goes all in, charging forward with everything he's got. He manages to block the strong hit, but right after, his hands go numb. He stared, surprised by what he was seeing. Watching the kid, he couldn't help but notice just how talented he really was. He lets out a laugh, and right then, his system points out that his excitement level just went up, which hasn't happened in a long time. He couldn't help getting excited. He really wanted to get closer to this guy. He bursts out laughing, clearly making fun of him and acting like he's not impressed at all. He snaps awake, breathing hard. He wakes up in a bed he doesn't recognize, looking around the unfamiliar room. He tries to figure out where he is, thinking maybe this place could be the headquarters of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. He remembers pushing himself too hard yesterday and ended up passing out. As he's starting to come around, someone named Wan Jin steps into the room, checking to see if Master is awake yet. He spots the guy and instantly knows who he is. He starts to freak out inside, realizing he just used the technique right in front of the guy. Now he's worried the guy might have figured out he's part of the unorthodox faction. He starts freaking out, realizing how messed up things are getting. In his head, he's sure they'll probably call him a spy and finish him off before he even gets to face the martial school like he planned. Wan Jin let him know it was time for assembly, so they had to head out. He nodded, but he was clearly nervous about it. He started thinking about why Wan Jin kept quiet about it. He also questioned if the sect leader just hadn't noticed what happened. He remembered that the guy's face looked weird when he glanced over at him. He was pretty sure the guy not only noticed his sword energy, but also knew exactly who it belonged to. The way the other dude brought up his master's name, Great Catastrophe Sword, made it clear he recognized it right away. He kept walking, his mind spinning. It didn't make sense to him. If the sect leader knew he was a spy from the unorthodox faction, why didn't he call him out? The question kept bugging him as he tried to figure out what the sect leader was really thinking. He can't stop running through everything in his head, trying to figure out what the guy's really up to. When they get to the training ground, he spots them and just gives a small, mysterious smile, like he knows something they don't. Stared at him, his eyes wide and his heart racing. All the worries he'd tried to push away suddenly made sense, and he realized right then that his secret wasn't so secret anymore. He lets everyone know they made it through the first test. Only 5 out of 15 actually passed, which honestly surprised him. He didn't think that many would make it. He freezes, looking around and seeing that everyone else is gone. Now it's just their group left. The 5 trainees who made it stood together, each of them looking proud and a little nervous. Oh was there, along with Dan, Wan Jin, and they all knew this was just the beginning, but for now, it felt pretty good to see their hard work pay off. The last trainee steps forward, stands there, catching everyone's attention as he joins the group. Wan laid out what they'd be doing next. For the next couple of weeks, everyone would have to spar with someone from his sect every day. The rest of the time, they were supposed to work on their moves and get better at what they knew. After explaining everything, he told to hand out the gear they'd need. She hands the item over to their coworker, making sure it's the same same weapon he always uses. She walks in holding a bunch of wooden weapons and hands them out to everyone, making sure each person grabs one. She steps forward and lets the group know who she is. Everyone learns she's the one they'll be training with, since the sect leader picked her to be their sparring partner. The guys size her up, realizing this is who they'll have to face in practice. He nodded, letting them know he understood. Then he looked at the others, wanting everyone to say who they were and start getting to know each other. The second disciple steps forward. He looks a bit nervous, shuffling his feet and glancing around like he's not sure what to do with his hands. It's clear he wants to make a good impression, but he just ends up looking kind of uncomfortable as he tries to say who he is. Cuts him off, not really interested in introductions. He just wants to get straight to sparring and suggests they skip the small talk and start the matches right away. Was all in, not backing down for a second. She tossed out the idea that the 5 of them should just take her and pal on together. It'd be quicker that way, and she didn't seem worried about being outnumbered. The guys freeze for a second, caught off guard by what they just heard. It takes a moment for it to really sink in, and no one knows how to react. Pal doesn't argue. He just nods and goes along with the plan. Juan smiled to himself, feeling proud of. He nodded, thinking that he agreed with what was happening. Chuck just shakes his head, not impressed by how sure of themselves they are. He figured he'd just take care of things on his own and let his 4 coworkers sit back and watch what happened. He signals the start of the spar, his mind drifting back to how they hadn't managed to beat the martial school in the last 3 years. They refused to let some random group take them down. He charges straight at, determined to end things fast. She stops his spear with her arm, not even flinching. He kept going, making it clear he wasn't finished yet. He throws a bunch of fast punches one after another. He braces himself, pretty sure the next hit is going to decide everything. Out of nowhere, her special ability kicks in, and she stays completely focused. He doesn't see it coming when she reaches out and grabs his spear. She lets out a wave of icy energy, and his spear instantly gets covered in frost. He yells out, totally caught off guard as the weapon freezes up in his hands. She smiles at him, letting him know her hit might sting a bit. She charges ahead, ice swirling around her as she launches a strong attack. Wu spots the attack and instantly yells out the guy's name, his voice cutting through the chaos. His heart pounds as the scene unfolds, adrenaline kicking in as he tries to warn his friend. After he loses, she looks around at the rest of the trainees and signals for all of them to come at her at once. Wanjin charged ahead, yelling his own name, wanting everyone to know exactly who he was. But even with all that energy, she stopped him easily, blocking his attack like it was nothing. He notices how solid her defensive stance looks, and can tell she's put in a lot of work. He nods, genuinely respecting all the effort she's clearly put into training. She gives him a quick, awkward smile, glancing away as she tries to hide how nervous she is. He lets her know that things are about to get tougher, and the next hit won't be something she can brush off easily. He goes in for the attack, but out of nowhere, Pal steps in and blocks it. Didn't see that coming. He gives a quick smile, knowing it's finally his turn. He goes after Wanjin, ready to land a hit, but suddenly someone steps in and stops him cold, catching his hand with a whip before he can do anything. Could see how strong his teammates were, and he knew it was time to stop holding back. From that moment, he made up his mind. They were all going to go all out, giving everything they had in the fight ahead. All 5 of them charged forward at the same time, ready to take on their opponents. They blocked every attack that came their way, moving together and keeping each other covered. Couldn't believe how things were going. He was fired up, annoyed that his group was actually having a hard time with some random sect no one had ever heard of. It just didn't make sense to him, and his frustration was written all over his face. Spots Pal holding his arm, blood showing where hit him. For a second, he just freezes, trying to process what he's seeing. It's not every day you see your friend hurt like that, especially in the middle of all this chaos. The sight hits hard, and he can't help but stare, worried about how bad the injury really is. He looks pretty fired up, yelling as he grabs whip and pulls on it with all his strength. He yanked her toward him with the whip, not holding back at all. Her friends saw what happened and instantly got worried, calling out for her. He shoves her hard in his direction, and both of them hit the ground, totally wiped out. With 4 already knocked out, turned to O, who was the only one still on her feet. It was clear to everyone that the match was basically over, and made sure O knew it. She looks over, checking if her friend still wants to keep going. She glances around at her teammates, all wiped out on the ground. There were 5 of them, but even together they couldn't pull off a win. It hits her hard, seeing how outmatched they really were. Bakery smiled, thinking that everything seemed to be finished now. He lets everyone know that actually only been training in real martial arts for a month. Gives them a quick smile and a little wink. The group just stands there, caught off guard and not really sure how to react. Can't help but think about how someone her age could already be this strong. He tries to figure out what kind of training she must have gone through, especially since most people his age are nowhere near her level. The thought leaves him curious and a little bit impressed. He looks at the group and tells them it's time to start working on moves they can pull off together, not just alone. He says back when he was at the martial school, teaming up like this was what really helped them win. He points out that this lesson should hit home for them, especially since they've lost to the martial school 3 years in a row. He tells them that if they want to pull this off, they've got to believe in themselves and have each other's backs. Trust like that makes everyone stronger and gives them the confidence to keep moving forward, no matter what comes their way. Training wrapped up for the day, and he let the group know it was time to rest. The guys all nodded and thanked him together before heading off. When the training wraps up, he tells to hang back after everyone else leaves. He looked nervous about being called in like this. As the other trainees head out, they nod at each other, clearly impressed by what they saw. He quickly turns on his sound barrier using his own system, making sure no one around can listen in on what they're about to talk about. He smiled at Wu Gang, noticing how fast he'd caught on about why he'd been called over. Wu Gang, on the other hand, just looked lost, like he hadn't pieced it together yet. He lets him know they're picking up their conversation from where they left off yesterday. He steps up, blue energy glowing around him, making it clear he knows who the other guy really is. He calls him out, not holding back, and wants to know why someone like the Sect's young boss, a big name in the unorthodox crowd, is pretending to be just another student at Marshall's school. He wants answers and isn't letting this go until he gets the full story. He lets him know what could happen if he doesn't give an answer. He asks again, his voice sharper this time, and it makes the kid freeze up. The guy's hands start to shake as he looks around, trying to figure out if he can make a run for it. He's clearly thinking about getting out of there. He sees the move coming and reacts fast, stopping him before he can do anything. He looks at the guy with a straight face, making it clear there's no way out for him. He wants to know, once and for all, why he's even in this place. 5 years back inside the Sect, things weren't easy for. The memory kicks in, showing him getting scolded by his master. He'd gone too far during a fight and ended up breaking the arm of someone who couldn't even defend themselves. The guy tells him to get up. He gets worked up, frustrated that the other guy didn't go all the way, didn't finish the job by making sure their enemy couldn't pick up a sword anymore. He brings up the fact that the guy is supposed to be the young leader of the Sect, a title that should make others in the unorthodox world respect him, or at least stay out of his way. He then wonders how much longer this guy plans to keep letting him down. Then he gives a sudden order to take out his older sister, who's known as the top disciple in the Sect. He tells him that she's out there battling the Alliance right on the front lines. Then he gives a harsh order. He wants her gone, no matter how it happens. He doesn't care if the job gets done with a sneaky attack from behind or by pretending to switch sides and taking her out as a traitor. He starts to speak up, but the master cuts him off, raising his voice. The master warns that showing mercy over small things could end up destroying their whole group. This, the master says, is what it means to follow their harsh, unorthodox way. He lets him know straight up, if he acts like he's been treated unfairly, the older sister will be sent to take him out. He makes it clear that running away or trying anything reckless isn't an option either, because if he does, the master won't hesitate to go after his own sister. He explains that in the end, the plan is for him to take over the Sect by taking his life. If he tries to back out or says no, everyone he cares about will be in danger. He thought there was no other way left, just him and his sister facing off, knowing only one could make it out. He dropped to his knees, totally worn out, accepting that he had no choice but to go along with what he was told. Right now, he's thinking about the choice he made, to sneak into the Alliance as a spy, also he could take out his older sister. The memory hits hard, and he can't shake off what's coming next. He stands there, facing the guy, and all he can think about is stalling. If he can just keep this up a little longer, maybe he'll find a way to slip past his master when he's not paying attention. That's the only plan he's got right now. He charges straight at the guy, not holding back at all. He's already made up his mind. This is the moment to use his technique. He tries to land a hit, but the other guy stops him without much effort. He smiled, noticing the guy couldn't really tell how strong his opponent was. Still, he thought it was cool that the dude decided to go for it anyway. He wanted to see what the other guy was really made of. He raised his voice, trying to push him to reveal what he was planning, wondering deep down what this was all leading to. He kept going, standing his ground as he faced the guy. He let him know straight up that he was here to train. Deep down, he knew he couldn't really go all out if he stuck to the usual orthodox techniques. He pushes him to show what he's really capable of, pointing out that if he uses his full strength now, the fight against Marshall's school coming up will be a lot less of a hassle. He quickly understands this fight is way tougher than the entrance test ever was. He senses that things could get bad fast. If he stops paying attention even for a second, he knows he might not make it. He rushes forward, yelling as he swings his sword, using the red blood sword technique. One steps in, blocking the attack. He thinks to himself that putting real effort into this move feels way better than messing around with basic techniques. He smiles, letting him know that the unorthodox path just isn't his thing. It doesn't really fit who he is or how he thinks. He shoots him a glare, not hiding his frustration, wanting to know exactly what's going on. He thinks about the way the killing sword works. It's all about being willing to take down anything or anyone that gets in your way. That's just not who he is, and he knows he can't go along with something like that. He raises his voice, wondering if he really knows anything about this guy. His mind flashes back to what his master once said about taking the hard road, the one most people avoid. He keeps checking things over and notices his sword isn't really reacting. It just sits there, like it's not ready for a fight. He gets annoyed and tells the guy to quit pretending they're friends. He hits the guy, making it clear that no matter how hard he tries to keep his real intentions hidden, his fighting style gives everything away. While kneeling, he looks up and tries to find out what the other guy is really after. He yells out, frustration boiling over as he questions if anything really matters in a place where it's always about surviving or getting taken out. He looks at the guy and wonders what's up with the sword. He paused for a second, then raised his voice, letting everyone know why he carried the sword. Suddenly, the air gets heavy as two forces slam into each other, sending sparks and waves through the whole place. Everything shakes for a second, and it's clear this isn't just for show. Something serious is going down. He drops down on his knees, completely worn out. He explains to himself that he carries the sword because he's got a reason to get stronger. He remembers his dad, Wu Yang. His dad wasn't the strongest fighter around, but he always stood his ground when things got rough. Even if everyone else ran, his dad didn't back down. He was honest and stuck to what he believed in, no matter what happened. He still can't let go of how angry he is about his dad passing away. Back then, he just felt powerless, like there was nothing he could do to change what happened. He figured out that if he just rushed in without thinking, he'd end up dead too, and it wouldn't matter to anyone. He realized he had to toughen up and handle whatever came his way. He realized that because he was so focused on getting stronger, everyone started calling him the young leader of the sect. No one really saw him as son anymore. Right now, he wonders if the guy ever wishes he could go back and change what happened back then. The guy, looking completely worn out, just shrugs and admits he has no idea. He just wanted to stand up for his dad and show everyone he wasn't scared. He wanted people to see him as someone strong, not a coward, someone who could fight and wasn't afraid to step up. He gets loud, making it clear he always wanted a son to carry on his name and family line. He drops to his knees in front of the guy, admitting that he's totally lost and doesn't know what to do next. After admitting everything, he told the guy he could either end him right there or turn him into the Alliance. He didn't care what happened next, as long as it was his choice. He made it clear the other trainees weren't involved at all. He'd snuck in by himself, and no one else knew. He takes a seat across from the guy and nods to show he gets what's going on. He puts his hand out, pausing for a second as he notices something he didn't expect. It hits him. He's fighting to protect people, not to tear things apart. The guy in front of him just stares, not really sure what to make of it. He catches him off guard with a quick flick to the forehead. Suddenly, the guy stumbles back, yelling out from the unexpected hit, totally thrown by how strong it was. He yells out from the pain, then tells the other guy to get up. He smiled, thinking back to how this guy reminded him of someone he used to be, a kid who got caught up in chasing revenge and ended up losing his way. It was like looking at his old self, back when everything felt heavy and confusing. When he left his clan and joined the martial school, it really threw him off. He realized he couldn't just use his family's fighting techniques anymore, so he had to figure out a whole new way to fight on his own. It wasn't easy, but he knew he had to rely on himself now. He talked about how he messed up his own start while everyone else was getting ahead. Now he wanted to help the other guy build his own path. The other guy couldn't believe it. Was this really happening? Someone actually wanted to help him out. He figured having someone like him, someone trained by one of the 10 Celestials, join the group would be a big win for his sect. He shares his plan. Over the next 15 days, he's going to break down every move he's ever learned. The goal is to let go of everything he thinks he knows and start from scratch. He lets him know that what's coming is really going to hurt, and checks if he's still willing to go through with it. He wants to know if pushing through will actually make him stronger. He gives a quick smile, trying to calm him down. You can tell he's used to handling stuff like this. It's just part of what he does every day. Over at the Alliance headquarters, two officials sat together, talking about the current group of students at the martial school. They both seemed pretty impressed by how talented this new generation was turning out to be. Everyone could see their results were seriously impressive, and now team leaders were starting to fight over who got to recruit them. The first official shared some unexpected news. The leader of the unorthodox faction alliance wanted to make a bet about the upcoming competition. When Sword Saint, one of the top 10 fighters in the Orthodox, heard about it, he didn't see that coming. The official lays out the situation. The leader of the unorthodox faction is putting his hopes on the martial school and its trainees to come out on top. If they don't win, he's agreed to pull back and stop pushing his group's plans for a whole year. Saw the bet on the weaker side and realized it was an offer they just couldn't pass up. It seemed like the perfect chance to buy some time and get things back in order. He steps up, making it clear to everyone that this year, losing isn't an option. The pressure is on, and everyone knows it's time to get serious. The group found out who their new instructor would be for the camp. He wasn't just anyone. He was known as top talent, someone who'd finished at school and was already getting attention as the next big name in swordsmanship. The instructor, known as Azure Flow, stood there. The new guy remembered Juan and the martial school, realizing it had been a long time since those days. Back at his sect, drops to the ground, totally wiped out. He's drained from non-stop training. Those daily 2-on-5 sparring matches are tough, and it's clear he's struggling to keep up. Out of nowhere, he shows up and checks if they're worn out yet. Then, he lets them know there's a reward coming their way. After training wraps up, he lets everyone know they'll be heading to the Alliance to check out the big tournament. He brings up a blacksmith nearby, the same guy who made his sword. Then he throws out a challenge. If they can win more than 8 out of 15 sparring matches, there's something in it for them. He's about to bring them somewhere to get their own custom weapons made, one for each of them, and can't help but get fired up about it. So Wa wondered what exactly a custom weapon was supposed to be. He let her know it meant the weapon was designed just for her, made to fit her style and needs. She pumps her fist in the air, pumped up and totally sure she's going to make it happen. When the next training day rolled around, couldn't help but be impressed with. She pulled off a counter to a move had just shown her the day before. Just shrugged it off, saying the move she learned 2 days ago was actually tougher for her. It was clear she picked things up fast but didn't make a big deal about it. One Jin notices that she's got a lot more energy than usual today. Sees it too, and he can tell the other trainees are starting to find reasons to push themselves as well. Watched Pal trying to figure out if the sect leader picked favorites. He wondered if the leader only treated certain people well, the ones he actually liked. The question hung in his mind, and he just waited for Pal's reaction, curious about the truth. Pa's face turned red as Juan suddenly showed up behind him, going after Wu Gang. You could tell Pa was uneasy, stumbling over his words as he tried to react. It's a quiet night with the moon shining above. Juan stands next to who's tied up against a giant rock. Juan looks frustrated, shaking his head at like he can't believe what just happened. He's not happy with it all, annoyed that didn't just follow instructions and stay put. Doesn't look guilty though. He's more confused and a little annoyed himself, thinking it's pointless to just sit around doing nothing, wondering if that's really what Juan wanted from him. He thinks this behavior is just plain ridiculous. He tied the rope around him, making the guy yell out in pain. This wasn't just any rope. It was the kind they used to move really tough martial artists from the unorthodox side, the type that could keep someone under control without knocking them out. He lets the guy know that any attempt to move or pull off some weird trick will just make the rope squeeze, making things way worse. Still, there's a chance to get out of this mess. The only way is to rely on his own inner strength and focus, without even budging an inch. While that's going on, Pal hurries over to him, wanting to know if's really getting special treatment. He looks uneasy as he quickly tries to shut it down and tells everyone to stop worrying about stuff like that. He tells the group to keep going, so the other 4 trainees jump right back into the spar. They look fired up, ready to prove they've gotten better. He puts his hand on the guy's head, holding him in place. He wants the guy to really pay attention to what the others are doing and figure out why he's being told to just stay out of it. The 2 disciples kept sparring with the 4 trainees. Everyone moved fast, trying to impress, landing hits when they could and blocking attacks when they had to. The room was full of energy, with sneakers squeaking on the floor and quick breaths filling the air. No one wanted to back down, and it was clear that everyone wanted to prove themselves. Catches on during the fight. Every time he tries to step back and put some space between him, and she's right there, closing in fast. He can't get enough room to use his spear the way he wants, and it's starting to get to him. He figures if being far apart is the issue, then he'll just push through it himself. Wu Gang just stared, not sure what to think. Chuck always stuck to spears before, but now he was out there throwing punches and moving like he'd been training in hand-to-hand for ages. Wu Gang couldn't help but wonder when Chuck picked up these new moves. He watches Chuck make his move, and at first, he thinks Chuck might be messing up. But then he stops himself and decides maybe Chuck actually knows what he's doing. He smiles to himself, noticing how much better they've gotten lately. It's pretty cool to see how far they've come in just a short time. He keeps chatting with the guy, wondering if seeing everyone else go all out makes him want to get involved too. He also asks if he's worried about getting left behind while the others are pushing themselves. At the same time, the system let everyone know that had reached a point where his body and spear moved together perfectly. Chuck watched and figured that if he could do the same, fighting would get a whole lot easier. He tightened his grip and threw himself forward, turning his whole body into a spear aimed straight at his target. Suddenly, starts yelling, desperate to get out of the ropes holding him. He's clearly not okay just sitting around and wants Juan to let him go. Juan, on the other hand, makes it clear shouldn't even think about moving. He tells him that pulling out his sword right now would mean he'd never reach the level Chuck is at. Chuck's been working on his own fighting style ever since his days on the battlefield. Meanwhile, he's just been copying his master's moves, sticking with the Great Catastrophe sword technique instead of finding his own way. He looks at the guy, clearly annoyed and frustrated. He's used to certain routines, and suddenly being being tied up like this just doesn't sit right with him. He can't just drop everything he's learned over the years, and he's honestly confused why he's being treated this way. He thinks about it and realizes that if moving around isn't enough to set his body straight, then he needs to work on how his energy flows inside. Changing his daily routine might not do much unless he sorts out what's going on within. He nods, thinking about how everyone else is pushing themselves by trying different things and stepping way out of what they're used to. But for him, that's not enough. He knows he has to push even harder, break through his own limits, and completely change the way he uses his energy. He explains that people actually have 365 energy pathways in their bodies, even though most fighters only use up to 70 of them. If he wants to get stronger, he's going to have to figure out how to tap into the ones that nobody else touches. He tries to force his energy through a new path, pushing against whatever's blocking him. Suddenly, things start to go sideways. His energy gets messed up and starts moving the wrong way, like everything's going in reverse. He raises his voice, trying to get the other guy to slow down. He knows that if someone goes too fast with this energy, it could mess them up big time. The stuff isn't safe. It can eat away at a person from the inside and wreck their energy core. Just stared, his eyes wide, trying to figure out what he was seeing. None of this looked like any training he'd heard of before. He couldn't help but wonder what was actually going on. Suddenly spits out blood, and his friends freeze for a second, their faces tense. They weren't expecting this, and now everyone's attention is on him, worried about what just happened. He yells at everyone to stay back, letting them know this is something he has to handle by himself. Even though they want to help, he stands his ground, determined to deal with it alone. He pushes through the pain, determined to keep going. No way is he letting himself fall back into those dark memories. He concentrates, clearing his mind as he works to get rid of the messed up energy inside him, forcing it out little by little. He lets out a loud yell as pain hits him hard. Right then, the system's voice comes on, letting everyone know he started the lesser cosmic orbit. He kept trying to break free from the ropes, but it wasn't working. Every time he moved, he ended up coughing hard, his chest burning. Walks over to check on him, looking concerned. His energy bursts out all at once, lighting up the whole scene. The exhausted man stumbles and falls onto him. As he does, the guy lets him know that after everything, he's used up all the skills from the sect. He gives him a quick smile, nodding like he gets it. It's almost like he's saying, hey, starting fresh isn't so bad. Still looking tired, he looked over and asked if he could get trained too. He didn't want to lag behind the others. He nods, basically giving his approval. He wants the guy to figure out his own way with a sword, to turn that empty start into something that's his. The trainees spotted him on the ground and hurried over, crowding around to see if he was okay. Not far off, deep in the woods, Nam Wu and Ha, guys who used to run missions with Wan in the Blue Sky Unit, stood over a body that had clearly been through something rough. The body looked weirdly dried out, like all the life had been sucked from it. The two stared down, trying to piece together what could have done this, both uneasy about what it meant. Ha shot him a look that basically said, quiet down. He checks over the body, noticing the marks on the guy's neck, and how he was hung upside down, probably to drain the blood. Everything matches up. This is the person they'd been looking for. She looks down, sadness in her eyes, thinking about whether they've lost him again. He notices none of the victims really have anything in common. It doesn't look like the attacker is being picky. Anyone could be next. He thinks about who could be behind it. It's way too messy to be the work of those unusual groups or the demonic sect. In the end, he figures the one causing all this chaos is probably a demon. He knows he's not that strong, there aren't that many victims so far, but he's smart about it. When he's done, there's nothing left behind except the bodies. No clues, no footprints, nothing for anyone to find. He thinks it's best to head back and ask for backup. She stands her ground, insisting they can't just sit back and let more people get hurt. She's sure the new captain, Mo Young, would made the same call as the last one. For her, stopping now isn't an option. They have to keep chasing after the target. He just nodded and smiled. Orders were orders, and he was cool with that. As they got ready to head out, he made a joke about buying insurance, tossing out the idea that missions like this usually end badly for someone. He grabbed a stick and scratched a message into the tree. If he didn't come back within a month, someone should let the leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect know what happened. Right then, was hanging out at his usual spot when something just felt off. It was like a weird gut feeling hit him out of nowhere, making him stop what he was doing for a second.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.